Well, it's 6 o'clock, and for anybody watching this live, as you can see, Marsupial has not shown up. I have no idea where he is. We were talking earlier. Apparently, he thought the podcast was at 5, despite the fact that we've been doing this at 6 for God knows how long at this point. And we're even in the same time zone, so it's not even like you get the time zone wrong. And now I'm just here, alone, speaking into a microphone and camera, with snow coming down on the screen still. I got rid of the reading, though. Welcome to the Vomitorium. I am your host, The Metal. And I guess I'm running this by myself for a while until Marsupial decides to show up. If you're listening to this, anybody, maybe Eagle in the chat, at him, pester him. I'm going to pester him in Discord. In fact, I'm going to be like, oh, there he is. Hey. I'm only here shaming you for already showing up a minute late.
Nope, sorry I'm late.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm just sitting here at the minute like, is he even gonna come? We were talking just like half an hour ago.
Sorry about that. My computer was not cooperating.
Oh, yeah, that again.
Well, it was my fault. Are we live?
Yes, we are live. I already went live without you. I did the introduction and everything.
I'm so sorry. No, well, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to me. I'll turn on the video in a second. My computer's still, thinking about itself and whether it wants to cooperate. But in case you were on the conversation, or you were watching John Dillard's stream last night, right?
I caught like a second of it. I was just in the middle of doing things, so I didn't really actually watch it.
He was talking about, the interesting games that he would prefer to watch rather than things like Final Fantasy II. And he mentioned Ark Survival Evolved.
Yeah, I know he likes Ark because it reminds him of that, God, what was that Dinobot show that he would watch?
I'm not sure.
It was something about dinosaurs, and they would put, like, mechanisms on them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
he went on for Ark for a while. That is a fun game.
Yeah. Well, so number one, it's on sale for, like, 80% off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like $10 right now on Steam. And number two, I just got my stimulus check, my $600 stimulus check. So I went ahead and bought it while I was talking to him last night, and it took like all night to download because it was like 50 gigs.
Mm.
But I got it, and when I noticed that we had an hour more time because I thought we were starting at 5 o'clock for some reason. Just had a little brain fart. I decided to start playing it. Well, apparently my computer can't handle it. I mean, it can play. I play it a little bit, but basically, it totally took over my computer. I even tried like lowering the graphics quality, but like,
I don't think the graphics is the problem with that game. I think it's the overall processing requirement.
Maybe, but I mean that made it playable at least.
Yeah.
But like when I closed it, first of all, when I opened it, it took like 10 minutes to open.
Mm.
At least the first time. Well, when I closed it, it took like 10 minutes to close, and my computer like decided to stop working. I mean, it like crashed my computer.
Yeah, well, if I recall, I believe Ark, it kind of works like Breath of the Wild in the way that like even if the things aren't visually on the screen, the game is keeping track of the movement of everything in the environment at the same time. So it does actually take quite a lot of resources to run that game.
Mm-hmm. So like I closed it like 15 minutes ago. And I was like, okay, I got to get into Discord. I couldn't get into Discord. I couldn't do anything. I ended up having to reboot. And so I rebooted my computer, and it's still semi-booting up, which is why I haven't turned on my video yet, because I'm nervous about that, basically.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'll turn it on in a minute. But, yeah, so sorry I'm late. But my computer was rebooting after Ark totally took it over and consumed every resource that it had. So, did I time out? Oh, there we go.
No, you're there. Oh no, I'm
sorry about that.
Yeah, dropping frames at the moment.
Yeah,
I don't know what's up with the internet here. It's been weird.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I was watching the time, but then I was like, okay, shoot. I thought I had plenty of time, but it takes like 10 minutes to reboot. Another thing I bought with my stimulus money was a new hard drive that
Nice.
gets here in about a week. I got an SSD, 1 terabyte SSD hard drive. So hopefully in a week I will swap that out and have a bit of a faster computer. Because that's definitely my bottleneck right now. I've got plenty of RAM, an awesome graphics card, but the hard drive sucks. It's so slow. And that seems to be like whenever I turn off a game like Ark, I go like if my computer's just chugging, I go and look at my task manager and everything's fine except the disk drive is pegged at 100%.
Yeah.
Just like loading and unloading things just takes forever.
That's why I keep most of my stuff on an external hard drive, and only like applications and core projects on the main one.
Yeah, I do. I've started to do that. Although now, once I get my new one, I guess I'll put Windows and all the applications on there. But then like all my storage stuff, I'll probably keep the old one and just use it for storage.
Cobra Kai. Yes, I did want to talk about that a little bit. I don't know if you even caught a single episode, so I'll avoid spoilers. But I do want to talk about Cobra Kai eventually.
Yeah, I watched the first episode. That's all I've seen so far.
Okay. I finished it last night. I just watched it. I thought I was going to have to do in 2 sessions, but then I realized it wasn't 12 episodes, it was only 10. So I was able to just finish it before going to bed. And, yeah. It was really good. I hate the fact that it left us on another cliffhanger, but it was still really good. Yeah. Let's see, if there anything else on the docket. At some point in the show, we're also going to talk about the fact that Netflix is rumored to be developing an Elder Scrolls TV show. Because I think that's a dumb idea, and we can go more into that later. Anything you want to talk about today? I think we should get in the habit of declaring some of our topics at the beginning of the show. That way in the audio version, if people see something or hear about something they want to listen to, they can just kind of skip to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's worth talking about, but, I don't know if people saw the idiot on Twitter who wouldn't get food for his 9-year-old daughter because he wanted to teach her how a can opener works.
That is pretty dumb.
That's probably not worth talking about.
Yeah.
That was the dumb tweet of the day. Maybe we should have a dumb tweet of the.
We should have a dumb tweet of the day section.
It was one of those. It's like a dumb thread of the day because he like told this whole long story. I'm like, just get a WordPress blog site and just write all this out onto a site and then link to it. Why do you have to write out 50 tweets to tell this whole big long story? Like, isn't that a pain in the ass? Or are there applications where you can just type and it'll split it out into tweets?
I don't know. I know you can hit add tweet and it'll do the whole chain and you can put it out at once, but you have to like manually type it in. There used to be Twitlonger. You remember Twitlonger where you would basically just type up a paragraph or two and then it would just post it into the Twitter, but you'd have to hit a link out or put like a picture. I don't know if Twitlonger's upgraded itself to where it'll actually split it into multiple tweets for you. If I was the one running Twitlonger, I would try to have it upgrade itself to that.
That would probably be helpful for these Spurgs to do their, multi-tweets faster. Making himself look like an idiot, by the way. Like, he got so many responses from people being like, feed your goddamn child, you idiot. You're asshole. Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. He goes into this whole big long spiel about how he was teaching his child how to use a can opener by not teaching her how to use the can opener.
Yeah.
So basically saying, teach yourself.
I learned how to use a can opener when I was 5 because my dad actually sat me down and taught me how to use the can opener.
Yeah, that's the usual way, especially, this was a 9-year-old child, according to the guy. Yeah. And it's like, he's trying to, get her to figure it out. And I'm like, just show her. If you show her how it works, then she'll know. That's how you teach people things. I can understand, trying to teach someone problem-solving skills, but like, number one, a can opener, just show them. And number two, a 9-year-old who's hungry.
Another problem, a hungry person, right? So people don't function optimally when they're hungry. So now you're taking somebody who's got a developing brain who doesn't have nutrients in their body, trying to figure out something that they shouldn't even rightfully know how to figure out in the first place, because this is invented technology, not something natural to the world. Mm-hmm. Like, there's all kinds of problems with this idea.
I know, this whole scenario. Here's the other thing, was that he said, oh, she had breakfast 6 hours earlier. And I'm like, a 9-year-old child. Okay, so maybe, like, I'm trying to think, like, the schedule of my children. Wake up, maybe they have breakfast at 6, and maybe they wouldn't have lunch till noon, but they'd probably have a snack, because children need to eat.
Yeah.
Probably more often than adults, because they wouldn't eat as much, and they expend a lot of energy. So if she hadn't eaten in 6 hours, then she's probably very hungry. And her very young, developing brain can't even function at full capacity of a 9-year-old when you're hungry.
Or if you're me as a kid, you eat more than the adults do at the meal, and then like still 2 to 3 snacks in between.
Or like, either teach the child how to use the can opener when they're not starving, or just show them. I don't know. It's just stupid. It's like, pick a different hill to die on when you're like, I want to teach my child problem-solving skills. Pick something other than like something that she needs to not be in painful hunger pains.
Yeah. Or something that would also be reasonable for a 9-year-old to figure out how to do.
Especially when, or if you want to try, and this whole story went on and on and on, but like, the child tried, couldn't figure it out, and be like, okay, well then let me show you.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for trying, good job.
Did you even mention what kind of can opener this is? Was it a classic claw? Was it like a camper crank?
Twist.
Okay.
The one where you hook it on and twist.
Okay, so it is an easier one, because there are all kinds of can openers, and the modern twist one is based off of the older camper crank, but that thing is like a small key with a dial, and that is the hardest thing to figure out if you have never taught how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Buck has a good point. Sounds like the kind of dipshit who try to teach someone to use a fire extinguisher by setting the house on fire. Yeah, exactly. Now, what do you think you do? Maybe you should read the instructions. The house was burning.
To be fair, I didn't start with the house on fire. It was one object, but the child just couldn't figure out how to put it out.
Yeah, exactly. Idiots. Why would you put that on Twitter? I mean, obviously you didn't think it would make him look like an asshole.
I didn't starve my child. She only missed one meal, but I was dedicated to the bit, so...
Yeah.
After like 3 days of her not eating, well, she just died.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody was suggesting that this was like genuine child abuse, but it's just
sounds
mean.
Like stupidity.
Yeah. Eagle says, I've never seen anyone play a Pokemon card game. I never have either.
Dude, I used to play Pokemon cards all the time. I still, from time to time, I've got the online version installed onto my computer. I got a lot of cards.
If you want to teach your child problem solving, teach them how to play video games.
Yeah, that's how I learned most of my problem solving skills. That and being in the Scouts growing up. Those were 2 really good locations. Now, I don't recommend you send people to the Scouts, because it is a horribly corrupt organization where you have to deal with internal politics and a bunch of like basic pageant moms who didn't have girls, so they have to live out the fact that they didn't have girls by getting their sons to get merit badges and stuff, which drives the internal politics. It's horrible. I had an awful time in Scouts.
I think it varies. I mean,
probably depends on your location and your community, but I had to do
Yeah, my son loved Cub Scouts because, it was all run by the parents, basically.
Well, that was the problem. When I was in the Cub Scouts, it was all ran by the parents. And in my den, it was a bunch of like moms who would have been pageant moms, but they didn't have any girls. So they were living vicariously through their sons, and they hated me specifically because I was getting like a fuck ton of merit badges all the time without even trying, because I was always a talented young person. Like my whole life I was talented. So it was easy for me to get these badges. And from the kids' perspective, we were all just having fun. Like their children didn't hate me. We were friends. They didn't care that they thought it was cool. It's like, hey, look how many badges he's getting. Can you help me and stuff like that? But from the parents, they were getting like very jealous and envious, and they actually skipped a whole year without me and left me behind. And at that point, I just dropped out of the Scouts because I'm like, fuck this shit.
Yeah, that's fair. See, my son's Cub Scout troop was mostly run by fathers.
Yeah, my dad was the only dad. It was all moms otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, ours
and then he had to leave
dads.
me because our group was fine as long as the original den leader, she was a chill mom, was in charge, but then she had to move. And the reason my dad had to leave is because he went to go be the den leader for my two younger brothers who were only a year apart, and there wasn't enough in my brother's grade for him to be in his own, so they just kind of moved him into the second brothers. So he had to leave them because they had no den leader otherwise. So I was basically being ran entirely by mothers, and then once the cool one who was in charge left, the impromptu I wish I was a pageant mother group kind of took over. It was horrible.
This was in Texas?
Yes, this was in Texas.
That's surprising. Yeah, see, mine was in Nashville, and it was in a suburb, and it was all run by men, which I think is how Cub Scouts should be run.
It should be.
But Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts should be run by men.
Well, here's the thing, right? So,
and I don't have a problem. I think we had female scouts. In fact, my daughter was basically an honorary Cub Scout.
Oh, I have no problem with girls. I think there was none in my den, but there were like 3 in our total pack, I think is what we were calling it back then for the big group. And the real problem is the area that I'm in wasn't quite a suburb yet. It was growing into a suburb, right?
Yeah.
So there were an okay amount of people in there, but there weren't a lot of jobs in town.
Yeah.
So my dad would rush home because my dad was the only of the 2 parents that I had that would get involved in stuff. And he wanted to make sure that we were, as kids, well-rounded and getting involved in stuff. So he would rush home, but he came all the way home from basically Dallas. And there's a town in between Dallas and us. And it could take like an hour to get home. So sometimes he'd even have to ask to get off work early and stuff like that. But he was salary, so as long as he got everything done, nobody really cared. Sometimes they even closed the office early. But he had to rush home. There are no jobs in town, so everybody is commuting basically to Dallas to work. So all the guys, all the dads are at work by the time that Scout starts. So only the moms were even home to do anything. And that's basically what we dealt with, being in not quite a suburb. If we were in a full suburb, I think it'd be fine because there'd be closer jobs and commute.
Yeah, and the badges. I mean, I guess. Were you talking about Boy Scout?
They called them patches in Cub Scouts.
Yeah, because I don't know if I mean, I guess they had like arrows and stuff, but they mostly had like, the Bobcat badge and the.
Oh, dude, I had a vest that they gave us at one point. I was just filled with patches because they gave us like a booklet for things to fill out.
Oh yeah, I guess there were additional patches that you get in addition to like the main 4.
Yeah, there was like a bunch of like extracurricular patches that you didn't have to get.
Yeah, but there was like a diamond.
Yeah,
the 4 main ones
because it was like each year basically. Yeah,
and then I guess you get multiple, but they're not like
you were saying
and they're not talent based. They're just you have to do the things. It's easy.
Well, they're not talent based, but if you're talented, you're gonna knock them out faster than some of the other kids.
I guess, but I mean, some of them are like go on a. was going to say, like, go on a camping trip and stuff like that. And so we went on a camping trip, and everybody earned a badge.
Well, I was also whittling before anybody else in my den and stuff like that, because my dad had started me young. Oh, he said, hold on, is my room the other way around? Yes. So I should actually look backwards to Marsupial now. Normally I'm backwards to you guys. I forgot what the name of the application for my webcam was, and I found the webcam controller. So I mirrored it because Discord already mirrors it. So it's right for us, but anybody else who joins the call, it will be backwards.
Yeah, I was confused because I guess, when I'm looking at you, usually the TV is on the right, and on YouTube, the TV is on the right. So
yes,
it
this
didn't
is my
register
left
that. Yeah. Wait. Really?
Yes, this is my left hand.
So you're backwards for me, but...
Yeah, but I'm right for everyone. Normally I'm backwards for everyone watching the stream because it's capturing my camera.
Yeah. Yeah. And at least my shirt is the right way for everyone else.
Yeah. Well, my shirt's the right way for everyone else. It even has the word cannibalism on it. But it'd be backwards for you. It's actually, I made this shirt. This is mine. It's a onigiri eating a bowl of rice, and it says cannibalism on it.
Oh, those are glasses. I thought it said something, but no, those are his glasses. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it said like RHZY or something. But...
I'm trying to remember what I was saying, though. Oh, yeah, so, but I was filling that vest out fast. And I was, because, I was proactive. I was doing everything. If I saw something was in there, I forgot it now, but I had at one point even memorized, like, every letter in sign language. And that also gave me a patch. In the Scout booklet, they had every letter in sign language. And they hated it because their kids were... It wasn't even just that they weren't talented. They were also kind of lazy. They just wanted to play. Sure. And they wanted to have fun.
They were kids.
And, yeah. And I was like... I was a gamer, even at that age. So before achievement hunting was a thing, I was already in achievement hunting mode. I wanted to knock out all of these things. Right? Yeah. And I was good at doing stuff, so it was easy for me to knock out all these things. Some of them I would get multiple done in the same day. And they hated it, because every single time we had a pack meeting, I was friends with the pack leader too, because he was also the guy that ran the concession stand at Little League, which I was also in Little League Baseball. And every time he called me up, my real name's public, Tommy McGrath. It would be like... And now, the legendary Tommy McGrath. And every single meeting, I would be getting at least 1 or 2 patches. And while their kids just kind of sit there. And again, the kids don't care. We're all kids. We're friends. We're having fun. But there's like these super envious moms that are trying to live vicariously through their kids. And they pulled like this inside politics shit. They basically skipped a whole year. Because I was still on the right grade level, because they kind of lined it up with the grades. And they skipped a year and left me behind. I'm like, screw this, I'm not doing it anymore.
Sorry, I just noticed something that GMT sort of semi-pointed out.
What?
Those pictures of myself that I sent to John Dillard, I thought I was sending them just to him.
You sent them to the Dillard live stream chat, I know that.
Apparently I sent them to the entire chat. Damn it. And I can only delete them for myself.
Yeah.
I can't delete them for anyone else. Everybody immediately delete those.
I don't know.
He made me do it.
I know you also posted one like publicly to Twitter.
But who? Who did?
I think you did. Didn't you tweet one out?
No, not intentionally.
No, it was Timothy who tweeted one out. That's right.
God damn it!
Did one for him too.
Oh, he did it himself. He did his own.
Yeah, not yours. He did his. I remember somebody who was doing pictures for him tweeted out. It was just Timothy tweeted out one of his. He didn't tweet out yours.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm looking. I saw all these last night when you were putting them too. They almost look like you're sneezing violently. Like you're just having a really bad sneeze.
Oh my god.
I should take one and make a meme out of it.
No. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I thought I was sending those just to him.
Yeah, but you know, the scouts don't have to be a
no.
bad thing, especially if you're really involved as a parent, right? And I think that's the thing with everything. It's kind of like we had the school conversation before. Ultimately, it really comes down to just the parent being really involved in whatever their kids are doing.
Yeah.
You got to be proactive and actually get to know your kids and be involved in their life to make sure things are going right.
I'm gonna block everyone out of that chat. I'm gonna destroy Dillard's chat. Yes. So anyway, yeah. In my kids' troop, you know, the parents were definitely involved. I mean, I think there was one dad in particular that was basically the leader who did most of the activities.
Yeah.
But basically, all the
Well, there's
all
usually
the
a
dads,
designated den leader. Like one of the parents
Yeah.
will become it. Yeah.
all the dads participated. I mean, I went to all the activities, did all of the camping, and all that stuff. So I think, and like I said, my daughter, she's 3 years younger than my son, but you know, when she was old enough, she basically became an honorary member of the troop. She even got a pink Cub Scouts shirt.
Yeah,
Like they make official Cub Scouts shirts for girls, which is awesome.
So actually, that reminded me. Remember, I think it was actually back in 2016 when I was running this podcast the first time. They were trying to get girls officially into the Boy Scouts, right? And there was a big stink about this, but as somebody who was a scout, I didn't have a problem with it because. The Girl Scouts aren't really scouts. I mean, have you seen the activities that the Girl Scouts do?
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah. And B, there's kind of like... There's advancements you can get in life from... Especially if you become an Eagle Scout, right? If you get the honor of the Eagle Scout. It's a really good thing on your resume, especially if you're going into the military, but even going into like the corporate business world and stuff, being an Eagle Scout's a good thing. So I had absolutely no problem with the idea of girls being in the Boy Scouts because girls have been in the Boy Scouts for a long time anyway. There's always been girls that have been like honorary Boy Scouts. The fact that you can make it like legit, and most girls won't stay in anyway. This is something that that a lot of people don't understand, right? The only girls that are going to stay in the Boy Scouts are the ones who are going to be into doing the thing that the Boy Scouts are doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you go camping, it's like... I remember my mom's idea of camping was pulling a camper out and basically just being in a home out in the wilderness. It's not really camping, you know? And I think that's... most women don't actually like camping. But if you find one that does, then they're probably going to be cool with doing most of the other things that the guys are doing.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my daughter, I mean, frankly, she's the most, like, girly of girls. She's, like, the opposite of a tomboy. She's like, totally girly. She loves pink and clothes and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. But I think she loved doing the stuff because her big brother.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it, too.
Yeah.
Because families are, like, cultures of their own, right? So if one person in a family starts doing something, siblings tend to pick up on it.
Right. I'm just posting to this chat that since I realized I polluted it with my face.
Got a sidetracked marsupial here. But I think, like, if I ever had kids, and if I was going to put them in scouts, I probably wouldn't do it unless I could guarantee that I was going to be the den leader. just to at least from the early age. Once you get into the actual Boy Scouts with the troop stuff, I could care less. But I just want to make sure nothing happens that happened to me. And if I was the den leader, then I could like guarantee that.
Yeah. Yes. Well, maybe someday you will be. Although
Yeah,
I don't know
maybe.
if I know like the Boy Scouts are becoming all corrupted and horrible like the Girl Scouts,
Yeah,
but
maybe I'll just start
I
my
don't know.
own scout organization.
Yeah, I don't know if the Cub Scouts are really affected by
But
that.
they're part of the Boy Scouts, so it all trickles down.
Yeah, but there's also other groups similar. I forget the
Yeah,
name of them, but you can look them up. There's Cub Scout, Boy Scout alternatives,
Metal
but
Scouts.
yeah, they're called something else other than Scouts. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, to be an Eagle Scout, you said that's a benefit, but it's like I was never an Eagle Scout. Nobody cares anymore. I think that
Yeah,
used to
well,
be the case.
in the military, it's still a benefit, for sure. You get like certain what's it? If you go into the military as an Eagle Scout, I don't remember exactly what it is, but you like in officer training in military school, there's some benefit to it.
Oh,
I think
maybe
it's
if
the
you've been
only
through
thing
the
that's
military.
still long standing. I don't know how much of like in the business corporate world it still matters.
Probably not. I think more important are like probably fraternities and colleges
Yeah.
in general,
But even
and
that's
like
going away
being
because honestly, colleges
yeah.
are in a even worse state at universities and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it depends on ages because like I think you know I wouldn't be. I'd probably be subconsciously inclined if it's good for creating a rapport. Like if I
Yeah,
were hiring and I found out somebody I was interviewing went to Vanderbilt University, which is my
yeah,
alma mater, I'd probably subconsciously be more inclined to hire them.
yeah. But
So,
I think even just in the last 10 years, for a lot of things, that's just gone away for a lot of people, right?
yeah,
Especially me being a younger generation. If I heard somebody had gone to university, I'd have to actually probably grill them even harder as to the character of the person because I've
yeah,
seen what university has been doing to people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, plus it's colored by the fact that at least my memory of my university was that it wasn't like that, and especially because I'd probably be hiring someone out of the engineering school
Yeah.
rather than the arts and sciences, even
Which
though
engineering
I
is
was
starting to get hit by that stuff, but it's later than the other
yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah, but I know that my school when I went there had a
Yeah.
great engineering uh, curriculum,
Yeah,
um,
and even
and so I
say somebody my generation, like a millennial that came out of the engineering, probably still okay because it's hitting later.
mhm, yeah,
But if you, yeah, well, no, the college didn't illegally withhold the mail. It was the on college living, which wasn't actually directly connected to the college. Which I honestly should have sued them, but it wasn't worth my time. Um,
mhm,
what was I talking about? Oh, my generation is probably fine if it comes out of engineering because it hadn't hit engineering yet by then. Like, and all the, what's it,
mhm,
STEM. It hasn't hit STEM. But if a Zoomer came out of engineering, you'd probably have to be careful about that because it's already started leaking into the STEM fields.
mhm. Yeah, and I'd hate to. Well, I would have to grill them. I mean, because yeah, I've seen people who got like masters or PhDs in mathematics and clearly couldn't do mathematics. Like
Yeah.
their dissertation was about sexism in STEM and stuff like that. And it's like, what
Or
the
you've
hell does
got
that
people
have to do?
now, in not even just in defense of Common Core, which is part of it, but you've got these people now that have PhDs in mathematics, in theoretical mathematics too, which, God, is the worst field, really, because higher
I
mathematics is all theory. We're gonna lose a little bit. That's why I'm trying to fill like this until it says that OBS reconnected. Um,
oh
but the big problem is that you see these people in theoretical mathematics who have these PhDs, and they're trying to argue that 2 plus 2 equals 5.
Yeah.
Or 2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 4. But their whole arguments for it is they're not even pulling, like, actual substitution. They're doing, like, bullshit levels of substitution, where they're adding things that aren't actually part of the equation, or they're trying to redefine what 2 is, but if you redefine what 2 is, then it actually still isn't 2 plus 2, because we could put any value there, but unless it's a value that actually equals 2, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, if we make 2 point
yeah, they're talking
blank.
Basically, they're making a sociological argument.
Yeah, not an actual theoretical argument.
Yeah. It's like you're missing, well, you're making a completely different point. And they're trying to, like, tie it into, like, basically critical race theory.
Yeah. Or just critical theory in general. There's race, there's gender, all of the different critical stuff is lumped in there.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you... Yeah, so it's like making me think, okay, so is a math degree really just a sociology degree now, or a gender studies degree?
I think every degree will eventually just be... I wouldn't even say sociology, because sociology is like a legit field if you're doing it right. It's all just these kind of social sciences as a label for it.
Yeah. And this all stems, and no pun intended, but it stems from trying to get more women into STEM when they don't really want to be. What if we turn STEM into women's studies? Then will you be interested? Oh, sure. Well, then it's not STEM anymore.
No, it's not.
It's not math.
It's not science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yeah.
And to remember what STEM stood for a second.
Yeah, but there's more women in it though, so winning. We've won. It's succeeded. They don't actually learn anything, but.
And then you wonder why, like, half of Elon Musk's rockets have blown up, and then he said, "I'm not hiring people from colleges."
Yeah. GMT says you should start the Metal Scouts.
I should. They will follow the Orichalcum Road. The way.
That's right. I feel like I'm just waiting for all of those pictures to leak out onto public Twitter. Just waiting. Just do me a favor and tag me at least so that I can, do a DMCA strike against you and get your Twitter removed.
Well, I'll just link them through the Vomitorium page.
Yeah. I saw, I don't know if you follow Dinah Winta, otherwise known as Moon Dragon.
Yeah.
On Twitter. She's been getting DMCA strikes from, I guess, random Twitter trolls who hate her. I'm like, all she ever posts are stupid memes and pictures of herself. How are you allowed to do a DMCA strike against someone who basically just posts pictures of himself?
I don't get how you can do a DMCA strike on Twitter. Right?
I don't know.
Because, like, with it's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the Twitter videos aren't long enough that you could put, like, a full song or anything on there. Maybe a movie clip, I could see that, right? But anything that you could possibly post on Twitter, because of the constraints of Twitter, should be short enough that it should bypass the DMCA guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's because the DMCA is broken, it always has been.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could do that either. DMC takedown service. Report copyright infringement, Twitter. Not that I'm going to... Oh, God, you have to go through this whole... Okay, so there's a help center on help.twitter.com that allows you to do a copyright infringement claim. Where is this happening? On Twitter. Description. You have to link to the tweet. So it's not like directly in the tweet. You have to go to this separate page, send a link to the tweet, describe what it is, blah, blah, blah. Give your full name and address and everything. And, okay. You say in a tweet, you give the URL, I can't believe people are doing that to people.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like I saw one guy was like, "I made that meme. You're not allowed to post it," and it's like, what? That's not how copyright
Well,
works.
first off, if you're not already a public person, like I had become when I went into publishing, I just decided I was going to be public on the internet. But if you're not already a public person, why the hell would you give anyone your full name and address? I don't care if it's the government running the DMCA or anything like that. Like, why? Don't give anybody your name or address. Stay anonymous as long as possible. That is the best thing about the internet.
Yeah. Or a picture of yourself going like that to the side. Never do that.
Looking
Never
like
give
the
anyone
vulture from frickin' Spider-Man having a heavy sneeze.
Never ever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Poor Dinah. She's made her. She's gone private. That's okay.
Oh, okay. But if you were already following her, that means you could still see her account, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I enjoy her tweets, so I would be ashamed if I wasn't able to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be anyone, anywhere. Stay anonymous on the internet as long as possible.
I don't know.
I stayed anonymous up until 2011. That was a long time since I've been on the internet, since the 90s.
All I know, and
on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about people, but at this point, all I know about GMT and Bullet are what country they're in, and I was recently surprised to find out what country Bullet was in.
Really?
I've
known that
know.
for a while, and it didn't surprise me at all.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, but I mean, it was I didn't know until recently. I assumed he was, a normal person, like who lives in America.
Yes, because only normal people live in America.
Well, no, only people who live in America are normal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Not all of us, but anyone.
I'm definitely not normal.
Yeah, I would never accuse you of such slander.
Yeah.
Of being normal.
Being normal is vastly overrated.
That's right. My girlfriend calls me a normie with a star. Like
With an asterisk.
I'm mostly an asterisk. Yeah, mostly normal, but I at least get a star because I'm a little abnormal.
And you can extend it. Depends what you define as America, right? I mean, there are technically 2 continents that have the whole name America to them.
Everyone. Well, yeah.
So you have the actual America, and then you have the North and South adjacent to the actual America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Great Britain. Great Britain,
America
basically.
adjacent.
Yeah, Great Britain's basically America too. So.
Yeah.
Never been happier to be abnormal. That's right. What else was there?
I think everybody considers her people abnormal, so.
Mm-hmm.
Probably even in her own country.
Yeah. I'm following some lovely people from Great Britain.
Yeah.
An excellent artist who is also a Doom champion.
A Doom champion?
Yeah, Bale Spawn. She's fantastic. Have you ever seen her play Doom? She's unbelievable. No. I mean, she's listed on the Doom wiki page as being, I guess I don't remember what, but she holds some records in Doom.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what makes you a Doom champion. Like I know the modern ones have MMO or like multiplayer version, but nobody likes the multiplayer in Doom.
Yeah, I think she has some speedrun records or something like that. But her Twitter handle is IDSPISPOPD, which is a well-known Doom God mode code.
Yeah. Now, if you said that she was a Quake champion, that'd be more impressive.
She probably is good at Quake
If you're
too.
good
But
at
like,
Doom, you could probably play Quake pretty well. There's a lot of similar mechanics and stuff to it.
yeah. But she's like, killed. What do you call this? Like the spider. What's it called?
Oh,
The
okay, I
giant.
don't remember. I don't know.
She's like killed.
The name of anything.
She's like killed one with just her fists, and she's killed like the giant demon that shoots like, what do you call them? Like with nothing but yeah, the Spider Mastermind. Like she has videos out there that are just amazing. I'm like, how are you so good at this game? It's crazy. Anyway,
Probably just
she's from
spending way
England.
too much time in it,
Yeah, it's
And it
clearly
probably
her
doesn't help.
favorite
She
game.
probably has higher than average reflexes, which is very rare for a woman to have.
And she's my age,
Yeah,
so it's rare for a middle-aged woman to
yeah.
be
On
that
top of
good.
that, she's gonna be like the 99th percentile of women when it comes to reflexes and age. Like
I think she's probably 99th percentile of anyone. And the stream died.
oh, did it?
Yeah.
I'm green on my end at the moment.
Oh, maybe it was just on my end.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's still up. And
I don't know,
funnily
man,
enough,
Spectrum's been pissing me off lately.
yeah. Funnily enough, I followed her mostly because of her Ultima 7 playthroughs, because Ultima 7 is like also one of her favorite games. And she's done multiple, like she does like those screenshot things where she plays just on her own, and then she takes kind of screenshots and posts them with funny commentary and stuff like that.
Now, the Ultimate series, I think, is a series that could actually benefit from a proper remastering.
Absolutely.
I would still want it to mechanically play exactly the same, but it could benefit from a proper remastering.
Yeah, I've got all of them 1 through 9 from GOG, and I probably have them all in boxes as well, like the original Apple II versions.
Like, the file size is so small that even if you just, like... I mean, you'd have to remake them at this point for them to run properly, but even if it was just like a slight, like a graphical overhaul, you could probably fit the whole collection onto like a single cartridge or disc.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Like, that would probably be like a good end of the year thing to put out. It would take a long time to do, but to actually just like put all of it into an Ultima collection on the Switch or something like that and just release it one winter.
That'd be awesome. Unfortunately, I don't think Electronic Arts would allow you
Probably
to do that.
not.
But
Yeah. Well, that's why you
bought.
just get a petition. You get like 1 million people to sign and be like, "Hey, look, we can make a lot of money by doing this."
Yeah. Well, a lot of games
Electronic
have
Arts will
done,
do it themselves.
yeah. Well, a lot of games have done spiritual successors. There's an Ultima Underworld sort of game that I forget the name of it. Obviously, the name wasn't Ultima, but and there's Nox Archaeist, which is basically a successor to Ultima 5.
You should pester them again. We should get them on some episode.
Oh yeah, Nox Archaeist.
Mhm.
They would. I probably need to do a playthrough of their game, and then they might be more inclined. But I think they're still working. I know they're still working on like bug fixes and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're very busy. They just shipped, and they're probably working on shipping. Like I haven't received mine yet.
Well, maybe by spring we could get them on.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
And actually, yeah, I mean, I've seen them do interviews recently since they shipped or since they started shipping.
Yeah.
I just have to pester them. I'm sure they.
Yeah. We need to get more interviews on this show. We gotta start pestering people.
Definitely, Pickles was great last time. Otherwise known as English Nachos. That's another English guy.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
There's also another good follow, another Ultima fan, another series called Dark Blue Monkey on Twitter, who's also English. He's a good guy. I think he does live streams occasionally. Posts funny stuff about Ultima, and he's a very big ZX Spectrum or ZX Spectrum fan, I should say. We've had some debates about whether ZX Spectrum or or Commodore 64 was a better machine.
What side do you fall on?
Well, Commodore 64 simply because I'm American, but I never actually owned a Commodore 64.
I haven't owned either. That's why I'm asking. Like, I have no point of reference on which one's a better machine.
I don't either, to be honest. I don't care. I just think it's funny to,
If somebody came at me with it, though, I would probably just pick the devil's advocate of whatever they said and do some research on both machines and be like, okay, here's my arguments.
I'd imagine just because I've seen more of people saying that ZX Spectrum, but see, I don't think that was ever released in the U.S. or not officially. So
I have no clue.
I don't think it. I just don't know anything. I really don't know anything about it. I have no honest opinion. I honestly have no opinion.
So we're probably in the same boat here.
Yeah, I had an Apple IIc, which is probably late. I think a later computer. I think that came out long after the Commodore 64.
Yeah, I've used older computers, but like I've said, my first computer was a 95, so Windows 95.
Yeah.
So I shot you that video before. Somebody had posted it in, I think it was actually the Cult of Raven chat, maybe. No, it wasn't. It was a different Discord I'm in. And just hearing that, like that crunching sound that the old hard drives used to make when they boot up and stuff, it's like, this would probably irritate a lot of people who didn't grow up with that sound, but it is surprisingly calming for me. Like the nostalgia that comes with it.
No, see, GMT had a ZX 48K. See, I think it was big in the UK. I literally had never even heard of it until a couple years ago when either Dark Blue Monkey or Balespawn mentioned it, because they're both big fans, and I'm just like, what is this? I've never even heard of this thing. So I think it was big in the UK. I always thought it was weird because I had friends who had a Commodore 64 and they loaded programs from tapes.
Yeah.
Like
I've seen that.
Cassette tapes. I'm like, how does that even work? But I guess you can put data on a cassette tape. And it's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, of course you can. All that's on a cassette tape is data. When you think about it, they're magnetic strips, right? So it actually just reads the encoding on the magnet the same way you would anything else.
Yeah, but isn't it analog? Doesn't it get corrupted?
Oh, it will over time, yeah. Tapes wear out because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I would think they'd run out there.
It's hard to find stuff that works for the Commodore 64 these days.
Yeah. What's funny is, like, so I have a Commodore 64 emulator. Hey, Rick. I have a Commodore 64 emulator, and you can load programs onto it, and they are basically like an image of a cassette tape, not like a physical image. You know what I mean? And it's funny because it'll load these cassette tape digital images, and it takes a while to load even on an emulator.
That is interesting. You could play one down a phone line into a modem in theory.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what the idea of using tapes was, like, in the first place. Is it just because they were so inexpensive and, like, easy to get a hold of at the time? They were everywhere. Everybody had tapes for everything. Yeah,
as opposed to probably because they stored a hell of a lot more than a giant floppy disk.
Yeah.
I think at the time they had, like,
so much tape in there. But then, like, how does that playback work, right? Do you have to rewind the tape before you can use it again? Was it on some type of loop cycle? I don't know.
I think the computer would automatically rewind it. Like, it had tracks.
Yeah,
like a CD, and it would rewind.
Easy to
fast forward to a different track.
That would be the worst problem, right? Before rewritable discs, if you just had a program on a tape, everybody would just be copying the tapes everywhere and just pirating and sending programs out.
Well, but with floppy drives, you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why they wanted to get rid of floppy.
Yeah, but I don't think I ever had a floppy drive that couldn't write to a floppy disk.
Yeah. So, and in the transition to CD, it took a little while before you got the rewritable CDs. I remember that too. Right. So it's like the problem with floppy is hypothetically, right? Or not hypothetically. with a hypothesis, right? Because I hate using the word theoretically because theories are like known things. So I guess hypothetically would still be right. That's a hypothesis. Hypothetically speaking, it is possible to create a floppy disk that holds as much as a CD if things were still progressing in the direction that they were going. But the CD-A is a more efficient shape, and it's a stronger structure, so it's easier to just, take around with you. It's easier to write in the first place, and there was a gap period before you could rewrite them. So there's a lot of incentives to switching to hard disk instead of floppy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Plus just the amount of storage.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. My point is, I don't think that the being able to copy the tapes, I don't think that was a reason to use tapes rather than floppy disks.
No, I think that's actually more of a reason to not use tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the amount of storage, probably.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. And maybe it was just easier to make drives for it. I don't know.
I don't think it should be easier, though. Like, maybe it takes less raw material to make a drive for a tape deck, but floppy drives were in abundance.
There is a whole documentary. If you're really interested, look on YouTube. I know that.
Questions.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, we don't know the answers to these questions. So, I know that there is a Commodore 64 documentary where they actually interviewed the original creators.
I should watch it sometime.
It just like Apple, it was like a guy in his garage. It was like there is a Steve Wozniak of Commodore.
Yeah, it was a 64. Normal audio tape deck, yeah, which would have been equally in abundance.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if like making the different decks that you would need for this different drives would really be that big of a difference either. It was probably because making in his garage, he had a tape deck to work with, right? Like, this might have even just came around from, because you said it's a dude in his garage making things. He was just working with what he had.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. It was probably just, hey, how am I going to store data? Oh, look, I have a tape deck. I bet I could get this thing to, send data back and forth.
Yeah. It probably has nothing more to do with, like, it being a better or worse system or anything. It was just like, I'm making something. This is what I have at my disposal. Now that it's made, we're just going to keep making it in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I would probably end up doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my point. Is that it was
just
some guy who, it's funny, like in these early ages, in these early times of the computer, there were no standards.
Of course
it was just, hey, we want to build a computer. How am I going to do it? And you just figure it out. And then if it becomes popular, then it becomes the standard.
Which I kind of wish people were still doing that, and I get why they're not, because like computers have gotten to such a point of optimization that there's almost it would be detrimental to yourself to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if somebody did start from scratch, you might get some random genius who stumbles upon some level of computing that we didn't even think of before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're optimizing, but we might be missing out on some stuff that we don't even know about.
Yeah, but I think at this point there's such a big barrier to entry when it comes to that stuff. It's like you'd never have a new operating system. I mean, Windows and Mac are so big and complicated. In order to make a competitor, it would cost possibly billions of dollars.
Yeah,
like not even.
And the only other competitors, if you can even call them that, are like the same 4 or 5 that have been around forever. And most people don't even know about like the other things like Solaris or most people don't even know about Unix just because it sounds like Linux and they're actually from the same original base, and everybody just knows about Linux, which is a family of operations in itself.
Yeah, and Linux is a cooperative effort on behalf of by hundreds if not thousands of people over the course of a couple of decades. So
yeah. It's like, and some of these other things, they've been around for so long, that's the only reason they're still around. You wouldn't be able to just start a new one out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And even if you could, it's not going to be a competitor. That's the big thing too. You're never going to compete.
I mean, it's even hard to come up with a new programming language.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, basically, all the new programming is basically framework, like JavaScript frameworks.
Yeah.
Basically built on top of some other language.
Which really all just comes from C ultimately anyway.
Right.
And it's because, it's the thing with mathematics, and this is why we don't get, like, people reinventing the wheel. At a certain point, math just is about efficiency, right? You can go into the theoretical side of math all you want, but it comes down to the pragmatics of 2 + 2 = 4. We can only get to 4 so many ways. Do we want to add 1 4 times? Do we want to skip a couple steps and just have 2 + 2 or 2 × 2? It really comes down to efficiency. And once things get efficient and optimized, how are you going to get around it,
Yeah. Sorry, I had to turn off my video for a minute there. As the GMT says, sometimes the only way to compete is with a time machine.
Yes, but so you can't actually change time. So if you were competing that way, that means you just went back in time to be part of the competition that already exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I once had to support zip and jazz drives. I remember that. I had those in college. 4 is the white man's number.
There is no 4.
It's funny, like, I think about things like zip and jazz, and it's like, you didn't realize it, but at the time, didn't realize it at the time, but those were really, like, transitionary technologies, and even, like, CDs and stuff, because, like, now, this little thing can probably hold, 10 jazz, discs
Oh,
with
yeah.
the data.
Well, that's the funny thing, too, is people gave up on flash memory for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because CDs were starting to eclipse cartridges and stuff like that. And then we got to the point, it's like, no, you just weren't doing things right. We can optimize flash way more than that. And that's even like a solid-state drive is basically just flash memory. And we're getting to the point that you could get like an SD card that holds several terabytes. And a disc is just never going to be able to catch up again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Nintendo Switch comes on basically an SD card.
And I think they're SD cards that you could put in for storage, which I think is to the same limit that a cartridge that they use for a game could hold. They said that the Switch itself is optimized to hold up to 2 terabytes for a cartridge.
Wow.
So while there isn't a 2 terabyte SD card that's commercially available as of the launch of the Switch, it is optimized that you could put for storage up to a 2 terabyte SD card in there. I don't know if one's available now. I haven't been keeping up. Mm-hmm. I know when I was first researching, they were still working on publicizing a 1 terabyte SD card.
Mm-hmm.
But I just have not been keeping into it.
Now, are you talking about you're talking about the storage card?
The
right?
storage. But
yeah.
I believe the cartridge capacity, if they were to optimize it, could probably reach what they made the Switch's operating system work for the storage. I don't think you'd ever want to do that because you have to fit DLC onto your storage and stuff too. And it's like, why would you ever go beyond your storage capacity? But
yeah, because they're going to want to give you the option to just just download instead of getting it on a cartridge.
Yeah. So it's like, what, am I just going to have a full 2 terabyte SD card for every single game,
mm-hmm.
just 1 per game? That'd be dumb. But hypothetically, a cartridge could go that high. It would just be dumb to ever make a game that does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's interesting. And so, I mean, even this tiny SD micro SD cards. I've got a 256 gig in my Switch, but it's saying here you can get up to a 2 terabyte for the Switch.
No, I remember reading that when they were first announcing the Switch officially. They put that down. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's thinking ahead. because like all these other systems, like the PlayStation stuff, you can already get
Mhm.
external hard drives to plug in that are like terabyte or two.
Yeah, and what's funny is like on Google, if you Google like what's the maximum, it says, oh, the maximum is 2 terabytes, but right now you can only get a 256 gig.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I looked at the date, and it's from 3 years ago. I'm like, yeah, I think you can get bigger ones, and sure enough,
I think
SanDisk has
that's
a
when I
one
was looking at
terabyte.
it too around the launch. It's like they
Yeah,
were working on having a publicly available 1 terabyte SD card, but it wasn't available yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is now.
Yep.
Western Digital 1 terabyte micro SD. That's crazy.
Of course, it'd be Western
250.
Digital that does it.
Yeah, $250, but
I
at
actually
least it
like
exists.
Western Digital. I haven't tried their like solid state drives, but back when like hard disk was the big thing, I would always recommend Western Digital as like the go-to, especially their Black series of hard drives. That would be like my go-tos.
Oh
Like you
wait,
want a hard drive, go get Western Digital.
so is SanDisk owned by Western Digital?
I don't know.
Because it's on the Western Digital store, but it's a SanDisk Extreme Micro SD XC. Anyway, I'm not going to get one because my 256 gigs is not even close to being full.
Seagate's gotten better. Talking about companies that make hard drives, I used to have a very, very hateful relationship with Seagate because back in the I guess mid days of hard disk, because that would have been when I was growing up. Hard disk was the standard for the longest time. In the mid days of hard disk, I've had so many Seagate drives that just failed on me because Seagate was always like the cheaper alternative. But getting close, like solid state and stuff, Seagate's been more reliable. I haven't had a Seagate drive fail on me in quite some time. So I'm no
Interesting.
longer like
Yeah,
reverse recommending them. Like, yeah, you can buy a Seagate. They're cheap and they're reliable again.
yeah. I always used to get only Western Digital, but
Same.
then I did at some point get a Seagate external drive that worked really well. I think Seagate was priced higher a little bit.
Oh, did they used to
So
be? Because for a long time
for a
they were
while.
the cheaper alternative.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like
At least when
for
I was growing up, they were the
well,
cheaper alternative, and they kept failing
may,
on me.
maybe it shift. Yeah, maybe it shifted. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I did have a Seagate external hard drive that failed at one point. I remember getting one that basically had 2 hard drives in it,
Hmm.
but it was just for failover. You couldn't actually use them both. You could only use one, but they were like
And what
raided
was basically a
together.
backup in case it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like in a raid. So yeah, if one of them failed, so they must have known that their hardware was crap.
You know, it's surprisingly good. I have you have to plug it in because it's hard disk, an external Toshiba hard drive that is still working. I've had it since like 2008. Parts of the hull are falling off, like the one of the screw ends to keep the shell intact is so worn out
Hmm.
that the screw wouldn't go back in. The plate cover for the actual plug-in adapters doesn't go on anymore because of that, but it's still there
Yeah.
and it still works. It's on its last leg. I have no idea when this thing is finally gonna die on me, but I transferred all of it to a Seagate solid state drive since then. But I still got it and it still plugs into works. I'm like, how are you still alive? You've
Yeah, I was just looking at this external hard drive that I have here, and it's a Seagate. I don't think I didn't even know what brand it was. I didn't care. It works.
Yeah.
GMT. I,
Well,
I actually did the same thing. I put a terabyte. Oh, might not have been a terabyte, but I put an SSD into my PlayStation 3, and it
yeah.
was awesome. It was like so fast. That's why I'm excited. I was able to spend a bit of my Trump bucks on a new solid state drive.
I love solid state. I wish we were going back to flash memory sooner, because I know a lot of it's somebody actually makes a breakthrough. But could you imagine if people were just investing that much time into flash memory this whole time, how much farther we could be?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
people kind of just like gave up on it for a while.
Yeah, it's funny, but I mean, at this point, it's catching up. It used to be so much more expensive to get an
Yeah.
SSD drive, and it's not really that bad
Oh,
anymore.
soon it's gonna be cheap. Like
Yeah.
it's already pretty cheap comparatively, but I mean, soon flash memory is gonna be the cheapest thing you'll ever buy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's yeah. I'm so spoiled because my laptop has a terabyte SSD, and it's just amazing the difference because I mean, with a regular SSD you're measuring in milliseconds. With a regular hard drive you're measuring in milliseconds. With an SSD you're measuring in nanoseconds.
Yeah, I actually have it right here.
Or-
Also, because we were talking about Pokemon cards before, these all the each one of these cards was 10 cards in the digital game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're the codes and stuff. Like, I actually do play pretty actively. Play me a Pokemon, I'll probably dumpster you. Though mostly what I do is I just go and I curb stomp 10-year-old kids online. Because why not? Like I said, this thing is falling apart because the plates don't stay on anymore. But this, it is Toshiba, but it's an off-brand. It's one of their subsidiaries. I think it's iOmega or whatever. But when you look them up, they're owned by Toshiba. And I've had this thing since like 2008. And as you can see, if you hold it, it starts to fall out of the case.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You need a new external enclosure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not too worried about it anyway. Like I said, I've already literally backed everything up onto like a solid state drive over here on the side that has like genuinely the same amount of space on it. They're both 1 terabyte. I kind of just keep this around for memory's sake, I guess, because I've had it for so long and it still works.
Oh, GMT got an NVMe drive for Christmas. That's awesome. That is awesome. I've seen, so they actually have external enclosures for those now. Yeah. So if you have like an old one, you can put in an enclosure, hook it up to your USB, and it's an external hard drive. Which is pretty cool. With USB 3, I mean, you can get pretty fast transfer rates too.
Yeah, I like USB 3. I don't, why you might know this, because I don't know. Is there a problem with USB 3 backwards compatible to USB 2? Because why is it that most laptops come with one USB 3 port and 2 USB 2s or whatever? Like, they don't... Like, wouldn't you just want to make all 3 of them USB 3?
I'm guessing cost.
Maybe.
Yeah, because like I have 4 USB ports on the front of my desktop.
And they're all USB 3?
And nope.
Oh,
2 of them are 3. 2 of them are 3 and 2 of them are 2. And I'm always screwing up. I'm like, which one is which? And it says like SS for super speed for the 3 ones.
Yeah.
But you have to really look closely at it, and it bugs me. I don't know.
Well, luckily the way mine's set up is there's like almost no space between the 2 2s, and there's like a little space between the 2s and the 3s, so it's off to the side. And I don't need anything that has a 3 because I'm using a lot of older equipment. Everything works fine on 2. But it's just like, why do I have 1 3? Why not just make all 3 of them 3?
It's stupid. I mean, I think obviously it's the intention is for you to put like like your keyboard and stuff in the 2s because it doesn't need to be fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they just made them all 3, which they will eventually, then you wouldn't have to worry about which one is which.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I'm actually wondering, is that my problem with the Elgato? Does it need to be in a 3? Am I plugging it into the wrong one?
Well, it does, but it should tell you. Like it should actually not even work if you plug it into it.
Yeah, well, because it was like working for a second and then it would cut out. Maybe I was plugging it into the wrong USB. That might have been part of my problem. I didn't know it needed to be in a 3 because I've had it for so long. I didn't know. But I forget that 3's been around for a really long time now. So. Yeah.
Mine won't even work. Like it'll come up and it'll say you must plug this into a USB 3 port.
It's not giving me that notification, but I know for a fact because my microphone, my Yeti, I'm usually plugged into the 3 slot. So by default, I wouldn't have been putting the Elgato into the 3. I should rearrange my stuff. I should get a dongle. I think when the Simless comes in, I'm going to get a dongle. Because I only have 3 slots, and I'm constantly like trying to figure out what I do and don't have plugged in. Yeah,
I've done that too. Except, so I mean, this these headphones have really helped
Mm-hmm.
because I used to have my old headphones were Microsoft and they'd plug into the USB, but now that extra slot is freed up for one more thing. I'm gonna plug something into it right now.
Yeah, I'm sitting here troubleshooting things for like, why am I not getting enough power to it? Whatever, and at not one point, because I always forget that there's a difference between USB 2 and 3 because it's just been around for so long now. Did I think, oh, I might have this plugged into the wrong USB slot?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here like struggling, like, what is the problem?
Yeah, GMT has confirmed the Elgato needs to be in a USB 3. But so, I mean, when I say it's like cheapness or something like that, or, you know, just cheaper, I mean, I'm talking at the motherboard level.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, it wouldn't probably be much any more expensive to put the, whatever you call it, the connector, like in this box here that I have.
Yeah.
But, you know, then it's connecting to the motherboard via a USB 3 connection. And
yeah.
presumably the motherboard doesn't have enough connectors. So, eventually...
Well, that's actually, I think, the biggest problem, right? A lot of the motherboards haven't made that big of an improvement in at least like a decade, right? There haven't been any advancement in motherboard technology, really.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: motherboards consist of so many different things.
Yeah.
So, like, if you look at like the bridges, like the memory bridge and all that, and CPU and stuff. See, I haven't really participated lately, but I'm technically still in the Intel Innovators group. And they show us all their latest shit.
Yeah.
And they're constantly working on new chipsets, not just CPUs.
The chipsets are where it's usually going. Yeah, I've been paying attention to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But when you look at like the core of how the motherboard works, and there's not much I guess you can do to change it, at least since like 2011, there hasn't been too many improvements on how a motherboard works. It's just little things here and here and how everything connects together.
But I mean, that's sort of like saying, well, a car made in 2020 is basically the same as a car made in 1920, but just
I would say it'd be more like saying a car in 2020 is basically the same as a car in like 1996 when they stopped not putting computer chips in there. Because right around like 97,
stopped
it's like
not putting them in.
Yeah, well, because or when they started mandatoring that there's some type of chip inside of a car, right?
Well, yeah. Or you could go back to when they started putting in catalytic converters.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, I mean...
Like, there was a big improvement around 2011 on, like, the whole way a motherboard works, and then it's kind of just...
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there have been big leaps where they completely changed the way that the bridges and the chipsets work every 10 or 20 years. But yeah, in between, it's just a matter of improving the microcircuitry.
But I think those big leaps, when you really look at it, are when everything usually, like everything else tends to leap too. Because once you have because it's the base for everything. I mean, this is how everything connects to each other. When you get a big leap there, you're like, okay, now we can optimize everything else around it.
Yeah. Like when they basically hit the limit of Moore's law, where they could not. Well, it wasn't really Moore's law, but when they couldn't really increase the clock speed anymore, they really haven't been able to increase the clock speed in like, I don't know, 10 years.
Yeah.
And they went to multiprocessor CPUs. Everything had to change all the way down to the software in order to take advantage of that. So yeah, I mean, you use old software on a multi CPU chips, or a multi-core CPU, it's not going to get any benefit. So you have to retool everything.
Yeah.
Use multiprocessor, and not to mention, like, even when they started doing graphics cards, you had to start.
Hey, dedicated graphics cards, those GPUs, those are great though. Like that's probably my favorite advancement in computing technology that has ever happened. Because that allows us to do the crazy stuff with video games that we really get to do.
Yeah, when I was in college 20 years ago, there were no graphics cards. There's no such thing. I mean, well, I mean, there might have been such thing, but there certainly wasn't anything that took advantage of it. It was basically everything was CPU and memory.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as they started to.
Now I remember I was
graphics
playing
card.
video games on my family computer at the time. It's like it wasn't bad too because most of the games you played were kind of like at best at the end of the era before that the same stuff that you could play on the first generation PlayStation anyway. Like I remember playing like Rayman on my computer, but that takes up like nothing. You know, like you don't need a graphics card or anything. That can run right off of the CPU of the system.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then of course, you know what's interesting is that one thing that has fueled GPU technology and advancement has been Bitcoin mining.
I know.
And
yeah.
development of FPGAs has been huge in development of because basically an FPGA is basically a graphics card that's just optimized to mine Bitcoin.
Well, that's also where the drought comes from too. Like every time like the new Titan GPU comes out or whatever, the next generation, people are like, oh, they're scalping like they are for like the PlayStation stuff. It's like, no, they're scalping, but not for the same reason. Because you can equally use this for mining and stuff too, and they're trying to sell it at a high price for the people who want it for mining.
Exactly. Yeah. It's they're like all going to China to these giant Bitcoin.
It's like it is scalping,
factories.
but it's not scalping in the same way that like the PlayStation and Xbox scalping is being done.
Yeah. I found that out. So I did a little bit of actually Litecoin mining in my attic, like I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, "What are these FPGA things?" Oh, they're just basically graphics cards, but there's no monitor, so it just sits there mining for Bitcoin. And then I looked into like CPU mining, and I'm like, "Oh, that's completely worthless. Like that doesn't do anything. CPUs are terrible mining."
Oh yeah.
So, but it's insane that they figured out that I guess just the different architecture for GPUs is just good for solving,
Yeah, and you can kind of do it off of a graphic chip too because it works the same, but for most computers, it's not going to be worth it because the efficiency of doing it versus the electrical output of the computer, you're losing money by doing so.
Yeah, well, like the first Bitcoin miners were, after the CPU ones, were basically just GPUs. Yeah. And then they said, "Oh wait, we can do better," and they did the FPGAs, which basically took out a whole bunch of crap that it's basically a GPU that doesn't have things like shaders and
it's more electrically efficient because you have to look at like what is the cost of the electricity going into this machine versus what am I going to get out from mining. So people look at like their kilowatt hours when they're looking at, and it depends on your electric company too, right? Like how much are you paying for it? I knew some people who were trying to like, oh, I've got some old laptops. I'm going to start mining with them because they have got graphic chips. And like, well, your graphics chip can do mining, but it's not going to be efficient at all. You're losing money by doing this. Don't even plug them in and try.
Unless you're doing like a proof of stake, like a stake coin.
Yeah.
STAKE.
Or maybe if you wired the computers directly together and they were working as one unit, maybe. Mm-hmm. But individually, no. It's just like you're wasting your time and money doing this. You're paying more for electricity than you're getting out.
Yeah. Well, and I was honestly thinking, because I'm at my mom's house right now. She has a huge attic. Like I could totally put Bitcoin miners. And I'm thinking at $33,000 a Bitcoin, surely I can make money. But then I'm thinking the difficulty must have gone through the roof. It must still be going through the roof.
Yeah.
So, I haven't looked into it, but I'm betting it's still very difficult to actually make money.
Yeah. It's easier to make money as a trader than it is as a miner. Yeah. But the problem is the miners are the most important part to it because without actually getting more out there, the trading becomes stagnant. So.
Well, yeah, but there's a guaranteed output of Bitcoin every day anyway.
Yeah.
So. However many hours it takes between Bitcoins is stable. The brilliance
they want
of
growth.
Satoshi.
That's the problem. The traders want growth. They don't want stability.
No, there's never growth.
Yeah.
The amount of Bitcoins out there is static. Or should have you tried Dogecoin?
No, I'm not saying like growth in the number of Bitcoins. Growth in the value is what they want.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't talking about quantity. I was talking about quality in this case.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, but if they ever like, you know, if the I guess I should say, if people like brought a bunch of Bitcoin miners offline all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the difficulty would plummet, and then
Yeah.
you'd end up with the same amount getting generated. So,
Well, that's the good part though, is that it's the guaranteed amount though, because that's what what's it called? That it stops a form of inflation in a way.
yeah, it prevents things like, you know, when we were based on gold, one of the problems was, what if you discover a new gold mine that has a ton of gold that's easy to get to? All of a sudden,
Then
there's way more gold, and
so
devalues it. Yeah, or what if you run out? I mean, what if you basically can't find any more? Then the price will skyrocket.
Both inflation and deflation of the value of it.
Yeah.
Especially, so now the value is basically based entirely on trade and market speculation. So it's almost like working with a stock in that way.
Yeah, and there's a huge bubble. I mean, I cannot believe that it 33,000. I'm sure it's still going to keep going up, but it's got to pop at some point. It's got to pop.
Well, I think when it pops, it's because it's the world market pops. It's starting to look like it's lining up with that.
Well, the world market for Bitcoin, you mean?
No, I'm talking about outside of of Bitcoin. If you're looking at the way markets are going right now, because you know everything in the world basically is set to the petrodollar, right?
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't Bitcoin tend to go opposite of that?
Yeah, but in the exact same trend.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they're gonna pop at the same time, just going in the opposite direction.
Right. Well, I guess, I mean, theoretically, I guess if they stop devaluing the dollar, then Bitcoin will go down.
Yeah.
If the value of the dollar increases, which may never happen, but if it does, then Bitcoin will go down.
Yeah. That's never gonna happen. Especially because they just type in a zero. It's like, we'll just add another zero. Money's been created. That's just how it works now. There's nothing physical that money's based off of. It's just like the Federal Reserve creates what are they called? Kind of like packets that banks bid on, as like this weird middleman of how money's created. But it's just kind of like an illusion that they're not just making money out of nowhere by taking an extra step. Yeah.
Yep. Printing money but with extra steps.
Yeah. Without even having to actually print the money. So it's more cost effective on their end.
Yeah, and ironically, Bitcoin, which is all 100% electronic, is more solidly based on something than fiat currency. Fiat currency is based on what is it called? The faith and credit of the United States.
Yeah, that is. That's all it is. It's a social agreement. That's all fiat currency is.
Yeah.
And if the problem is too is if our fiat collapses, pretty much the fiat of the entire world collapses.
Right.
And people don't realize that. Like, even the EU's money is based on our money. Like, if we go down, they go down too.
I don't know how we got on this subject anyway.
Oh, because we were talking about all kinds of things. We went from, like, computers to mining to currencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we talk about Top Hat last week? I don't think we did.
I don't remember talking about that at all. What do you want to talk about Top Hat? Let's get into something else.
Yeah. I feel like we could keep going, but
oh, we totally could. If you want to talk about my problems with the Federal Reserve, we could go on for a long time, but let's get into something else.
Anything with that. Top Hat. It's funny. I just got a I just got a tweet from Niobe about that very subject, sort of. God, no. No.
Is
Jason.
this the live chat? Let me look at this. There's been
Oh
messages.
god, no. Yeah, the Dillard live streams chat.
Oh yeah. Jason, my reaction to seeing those pics. This is just re-putting one of our pics.
My entire. Oh god! Thank God Pope Raven's not in that chat. He'd have roasted me.
Okay, so
Hard.
top hat.
Anyway. Thank God GMT's not in that chat. Those pictures would be all over the place. She says the Steam page for that game has some interesting reading in it. Are you talking about Source, a cyberpunk ghost story?
That's what we're talking about, right?
I guess I'm assuming that's what GMT is talking about. So, you want me to introduce this topic?
Yes, please give us the context of what's going on.
Well, I'll go backwards a little bit because a lot of people don't even know this, but there is a game developer called Suzaku Games that I guess this was a Kickstarted game. This was on Kickstarter, and they started developing this a game called Sense, and then a bunch of Chinese letters or maybe Japanese. Sense, a cyberpunk ghost story. Sense, yes, sorry, I might have said Source before. And what's interesting, so I went back, or I didn't. I actually found a link to an interview from 2019 that was featured on Bounty into Comics, and I actually retweeted this article from Bounty into Comics from the main developer, and I have to go back and find his name, of Suzaku Games, who was talking about the fact that I guess there was a little bit of controversy when they were first kickstarting this game, and that the art was of a lot of beautiful anime style women with very large breasts. And
are we talking opie, or are we talking like what does it say?
We're talking Uzaki-chan level.
No, what's it say on her shirt? That's the word for the even bigger ones. It's something Dekai.
Yeah.
I can't remember right now. The first word's the one that basically
Sugoi.
means very. Sugoi Dekai, yeah. Sugoi means
Sugoi Dekai. Yeah, we're talking Sugoi Dekai.
Okay.
Super huge. Isn't that what that means? Super huge?
Yeah, it means very huge. Yeah.
Very huge, yeah. Yeah, we're talking Uzaki-chan level breastises. I mean, honestly, quite unrealistically large.
Yeah.
But that's the style, and I guess so. There was an interview with the developer. I guess it was like October 2019, where he was basically like, "This is what we want to do. Screw y'all. Screw any detractors. If you don't like it, don't buy it," kind of thing. We're not going to censor our art, and we have no plans. And he did mention they might have a little trouble getting it onto the PlayStation because of Sony's censorship. But basically said, we are not going to censor it, and our publisher, Top Hat Productions, is not going to censor it. So take it or leave it. This is what we're doing. Suck it up.
Yep.
And they got a lot of mega milk levels, yeah. They got a lot of...
That's such a weird hentai.
Yeah.
Have you actually seen the Mega Milk hentai?
I don't. Maybe I might have seen it.
I've seen the meme at least, but it actually comes from
sure.
a hentai, and that's so weird. It's incest. I don't get the idea around incest. Like, I don't get why that's such a fetish, but.
Oh yeah, I googled it and it went right to xvideos.com.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was actually surprised. This was after all that just happened this past week. I just happened to be kind of delving into it and found this interview from over a year ago, of this developer saying, "Nope, we're going to do it. So suck it." And so anyway, they came out with it. They developed it. It's been on Steam for almost a year. But what happened this week was they've just announced that they're going to release it on Nintendo Switch.
I was actually about to say
January
they should put it
7th.
on the Switch as long as they properly rate it. Nintendo's not going to care.
Exactly. So they are. So basically the Nintendo Life Twitter account announced this week that they are that Suzaku or Top Hat Production or Top Hat Productions, I guess, is releasing Sense, a cyberpunk ghost story on the Switch on January 7th. And woo boy, they showed a picture. They had basically the cover art of the game in the tweet, and they got some heat on Twitter for that
like
picture.
Nintendo Life. Do you like Nintendo Life? Because I've been following Nintendo Life for a while. I don't know who runs it or whatever, but whoever does just seems like a genuine, just kind of like Nintendo nerd, and doesn't seem to put like a slant into anything. It's just like raw information. Like, this is the best account.
Yeah, and I mean, Nintendo Life didn't say, "Oh, we're sorry for posting that" or anything like that.
It's like, this is just the information. This is it.
Yeah. Oh, they got a ton of hate, and they just moved on with their life. They continued exactly what an account like that should do. Oh, we're gonna tweet the next thing, and the next
journalism.
Thing, we
We're just putting out the information. Make of it what you want.
Yeah, exactly. So it was Top Hat that was getting started to get all the heat, and they put out a lovely, beautiful, perfect response. And you want me to read it if I can find it? It's probably there. Let's see, top.
Yeah, like GMT quoting you, basically paraphrasing. I googled it, and now I'm on a list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of harassment, and they put out a statement regarding censorship demands of Sense, a cyberpunk ghost story, and it says, I guess I probably don't. Well, I'll just read it. Tell me when you want me to stop. With the recent news of Sense, a cyberpunk ghost story coming to Nintendo Switch, we are aware of a large amount of messages and demands aimed toward the game's console platform release based on lies, claims that it is explicitly pornographic or somehow encourages violence or, most ridiculously, somehow breaks the law. Furthermore, voices have attempted to advocate making sale of the game untenable through demanding harsh censorship aimed towards the developer's arty style, with threats to review bomb the game and or harass its distributors. In addition, we've received death threats from those who feel threatened by what essentially boils down to an aesthetic decision of how pixels are arranged on a screen. While disappointed at these behaviors, we are certainly not surprised. Let us be clear on this, we will not censor the game because of self-centered crowds who care solely about grandstanding. We categorically and absolutely refuse to restrict creative expression. Creators should be allowed freedom to express themselves, particularly when it is an expression of the subcultures they have been immersed in. As a cyberpunk game, Sense uses imagery and themes relating to a future of hyper-commercialization over commodified imagery as part of its cyberpunk theme and inspiration. This is reflected in all character designs. With that said, we expect... All right.
Or how much is left?
I'll just skip ahead. We reject any and all of the aforementioned characterizations. This game is rated 17 plus. Blah blah blah. Once again, it's rated mature. The game will be released as planned without censorship.
No, the words you were saying, right? It almost sounded like you should have been reading that with more of like a sardonic tone to it, because that's how it was coming off. Like they were being a little jovial about this response. It's very dry humor, but like it really sounds, especially when it says like the way pixels were arranged on screen is really what started getting me. Like they're having a little fun with this response. Yeah.
Well, I like the very last part. The game will not be censored. We categorically refuse.
Yeah, I like that.
So
but
then
it's rated properly, right? It's a mature game. Why should anybody care?
Yeah, so then they were accused of lying and people started saying, no, they didn't receive any death threats. They didn't receive, nobody's saying censored, basically gaslighting. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. So they put out a Data Racer 117 style collage of all of the tweets, Facebook posts, and emails they had received on this subject. And it's a thing of beauty. So if you look at Top Hat Studios, they have several collages of all of the death threats and the calls for censorship, and they're not going to back down.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't. Plus, what they don't realize is these mobs only have as much power as you give them, right? I mean, they have some influence with certain companies and stuff, but as long as you can get to where you want, and right now Nintendo, like I said, will basically let you put it on as long as anything is rated the way that it needs to be rated, these people literally have no power. You shouldn't back down to them.
Yep. And here's the other thing. So now I'm thinking, gosh, if we make a game, maybe we should ask Top Hat to be our publisher.
Sure, why not?
especially if we do a risque graphic novel. But I'm trying to find. So obviously, I don't think Suzaku has really said much, even though they're actually the developers.
I probably just left everything to the publisher. I mean, the publisher did a good enough job anyway.
Yeah. But I did retweet the old 2019 article with the interview of the owner of Suzaku, and then they did get support. Trying to find it. Basically, Top Hat got support from another one of their developers. So a different developer came out and said, we are very, very proud to be working with Top Hat. The girl from Arkanaya. So Arkanaya, Arkanya.
Not familiar with that name. If I saw a screenshot, maybe I would have seen the game around, but I haven't played it.
Yeah. So yeah, they're another developer. The game is called The Girl from Arkanaya. And they said they had a tweet retweeting Top Hat saying, we had originally planned to stay out of this fight, but it seems that the attacks against our publisher have only increased, so I'm giving my 2 cents. And basically just said, our game is, not being attacked. It's very family friendly or what have you, child friendly, but, they don't deserve this. And we support our publisher.
Bullet brings up that you don't really even need a publisher these days. You don't need one. You actually haven't ever really needed a publisher, but there are some benefits, especially in gaming, that come with having a publisher. Publishers do all the marketing for you, so you could just focus on development, and that's a nice thing. They also offer a certain level of protection if you have a good publisher like Top Hat here, where if people do try to come after you, or even if other bigger corporations try to bully you, have a buffer there. There are benefits to having a publisher, but it, like anything, it's a double-edged sword. There's some drawbacks from having a publisher too. It just if it outweighs.
There's also sort of a networking aspect in that if a publisher puts a game out on Steam, all of their developers kind of show up together.
Yeah.
So if you're involved with a publisher that has another developer that has a very successful game, you might get recommended automatically from Steam and stuff like that.
There are a ton of benefits from being with a publisher. That's
Yeah.
There are a lot of benefits from being completely independent as well, but it's a give and take. There's trade-offs. But man, even in the 80s, if you could afford to get your thing onto a cartridge or even just a floppy, I mean, you really never needed a publisher. I think we even had a whole episode where we talked about the indie gaming front throughout the whole history of the gaming industry. And even now, yeah, it's more accessible than it's ever been. You don't even necessarily have to be a programmer to make a game with some of the utilities that are around. It still helps to know coding and stuff like that, especially if you want to fine-tune things. But like one of the ones you picked up, the visual novel maker, like you don't even really need to know a thing about coding if you have that. If you just use like a lot of the basic stuff and trade out the assets.
Yeah, we need to get on that. I did spend money on that.
And I kind of want to start making some additional money. Yeah, we need to get on something.
Well, I was thinking about Nox Archaeist and the fact that they made this off Apple II game.
Yeah.
I mean, literally built it for the Apple II. You can play it on an actual Apple computer. And they kickstarted it like 2 years ago and made like, I feel like a ridiculous amount of money. Damn it, I'm still looking at Mega Milkers or whatever it's called. Mega Which actually doesn't even look, well, I haven't actually read it, but pictures.
I have. I could give you a synopsis of the plot real quick, right? It's these two siblings. They're right around puberty age, which is what makes it bad. And the brother kind of like hits his flat-chested sister in the chest to make fun of her, but then she feels sore for a few days, and her milkers kind of explode out of her chest. And then they kind of have a scene in the bathroom after she's teasing him, which, you know, it's an incest hentai. And at the end of the story, they leave you on a cliffhanger. I don't know if there's a sequel. Reading 1 was bad enough, but I kind of wanted to understand the meme. She flicks him in his private parts, right there in the old dickery-do, and he talks about it being sore like her chest was. Which just kind of assumes that he's going to have a enlargement in his member down there afterwards.
So
yeah,
wrong.
And this is a popular hentai. Like, why do people like this shit?
So wrong. We need to have the ability to like put things, because I have a picture in my head of a certain meme of this. I can't even remember. Like maybe like some guy just like shaking his head and in disgust. I need to be able to put that on the screen at a moment's notice. Oh god. Nostalgia Points, Frog in a Blender, the visual novel. Anyway, okay, so they didn't actually make as much as I thought. So
Yeah.
Nox Archaeus on Kickstarter made $42,000 with 566 backers. But still, I'm quite curious to know how they got that many backers. And could we do the same? Could we potentially kickstart some sort of game? I mean, this is an RPG,
I mean,
so
we totally could kickstart a game. I've no doubt about this. It's just all about promoting the hell out of it.
Yeah, we'd have to. So I am actually in actually a couple of indie developer and indie game developer communities on Facebook, and I was thinking, gosh, I'd have to be more active there. Sadly,
It's actually kind of funny if you look at it statistically, and probably why there's also a lot more ripoffs in this area. It is a lot harder to make a game than it is to make a comic, because about the equal amount of time goes into it, but not the equal amount of effort and training necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot harder to make a game than it is to make a comic, but it's a lot easier to kickstart a game than it is to kickstart a comic. You're far more likely to get backers, and it's probably just because the people who like games are bigger. It's a bigger marketplace that you're reaching out to.
Oh yeah,
because
are
games
you kidding
are
me?
mainstream. It's like the biggest entertainment industry in the world right now.
Yeah, like how big is the comic book market?
The
in terms
comic
of
book
dollars?
industry that
Not
may not
including mine.
include Kickstarters, we don't know, but it's not going to be much more, is about a $1 to $1.2 billion industry every year. It's not that big.
Right.
Yeah,
And the
while games like
games
a trillion,
industry
trillion dollar industry.
No, it's not a trillion, but it's like 100 and maybe it's.
It's getting close to a trillion.
I thought it was closer to like 150 to 200
Is-
billion.
I know it's bigger than movies.
Is it? maybe it's grown faster than I thought.
Yeah, I might be overshooting by it. I have no doubt about that. I haven't looked at this in like a really long time. I'm just going with what the trend looked.
Okay, so 2020. No, yeah, it's 165.
Okay, yeah, I overshot by a lot.
Yeah, so it's about 100 times larger.
Yeah,
or maybe 200 times larger than the comic book industry. So yeah, I mean,
I think maybe I was overshooting too because I thought the movie industry was a lot bigger than it is.
how big is the movie industry? Not as big as 166 billion.
I would assume so. Because when I was reading reports, and of course it could be people just inflating the video game industry, it was saying that video games make more money than movies do.
Well, so GMT says 2019 might be a better measure. Well, I guess maybe this includes projections, but according to what I'm looking at, 2019 was 152 billion, and 2020 was 166 billion.
Yeah, the film industry is only 35 billion as of last year. Yeah, it was way lower.
Yeah.
I thought it was close to $1 trillion. Like, I figured that films were making more money than that.
See, the last time I looked must have been 2015 because I remember seeing video game industry was at 90 billion, but it's double. It's almost double that.
Yeah, it is the fastest growing industry.
Yeah.
Board games are not doing bad though by comparison with growth, right? Because board games are way lower, obviously, but it's like 7 times higher than comic books are. When I checked back in 2017, and it's projected to grow by another. It's like 7 billion. Is projected to grow by another. Was it 7? No, it was 17 billion, and it was so that's way higher than comic books. And now, it was projected to grow by another 5 billion industry revenue for tabletop games and board games in general in the next 5 years. So it should be eclipsing 20 billion within soon.
And I think that'd be mostly attributed to indie games.
That's probably one of the most popular things you can kickstart right now is tabletop games and board games.
Yeah, like is Dungeons and Dragons even growing? I'm not sure that it is.
It's stable. It's still selling like the same, in modules and everything, figures, everything attached to it. But it hasn't really grown any. It's kind of just like flatlined. It's not decaying though because it's a household name, so people are still buying it.
Yeah.
Pathfinder's been on a growth curve, and I think it's because more people are looking for an alternative to D&D that plays like D&D, so they don't have to learn a new system.
Mm-hmm. Is there THAC0 in Pathfinder?
I actually don't know. I've played like a session of a Pathfinder campaign, and I did not enjoy it. I'm not gonna diss on Pathfinder. It could have been the DM, like that could always be a problem. I haven't read through the whole rule book for any edition of it, but it's I really wasn't enjoying. It's this feels vaguely like D&D, but it's not actually playing D&D, and this whole session has not been enjoyable.
I'll tell you, as much as people complain about it, 5th edition D&D, at least vanilla. When it first came out, it wasn't bad. I didn't think it was that
vanilla's
bad.
not bad up to level 10. You can have a really fun campaign up to level 10. After level 10, it loses all sense of balance.
Oh, okay. So I never played that long.
Yeah.
I didn't get up to level 10.
Which is, that's not that bad. Most short campaigns end before 10 anyway, or at 10. 3.5 was slightly better, because that lost balance after level 15. 15 was considered like endgame. But, you still consider 15 like endgame. How many campaigns ever get to 20? So that really wasn't a problem.
We need to, get to level 99 in our Final Fantasy campaign.
From what I've heard, and I've said this a few times, which we could talk about that for a little bit too, before getting into anything else, because we do usually do a catch-up for the audience, but there's not that much to talk about this time because you guys were mostly just grinding.
Yeah,
there's a couple funny events that happened, especially with Timothy, but this one loses balance. I heard around 70 to 75, but like I said, that's not a problem Because around 65 to 70 is the level they expect you to be at the end game of most Final Fantasies that go to 99. Like, you could fight the boss somewhere between 65 to 70 and be okay. So if it loses balance after 75, which is actually where you hit the maximum for any class combination, I think. Well, not any, because it can vary depending on who you pick and what class you pick up. But it's going to be on or about 75 no matter what combination that you pick for race and class. And then you start going above the maximums, that's when the balance gets thrown out. And like, okay, that makes sense. At least you tried to balance it up to the point where you hit those racial and job maximums. There's a solid attempt there.
Like, what's the problem? Is it just too hard? Are they just not smart enough? Like, why does the balance get all out of whack after that?
I think that the numbers of some things get too high once you get past a certain point, right? And the balance isn't for combat necessarily. This one, I heard the problem is making characters feel valuable in the late game because mages become too strong. Because after you hit your maximums, you have 25 extra points to play with. If you want, and your magic is already maxed out as a mage, you could just throw all of that into vitality, so you have a lot of physical armor. You don't care about doing strength. You can leave your strength low because you're a mage. But if you have a lot of health and armor, and because your spirit's high, so you can have a lot of MP, you already have a lot of magic armor, now it's harder to kill you, and you're still nuking people.
You guys basically turn into a tank mage,
Yeah.
like me.
And you're not going to be the tankiest thing because you can't get plate mail or anything like that. You can only get robes. But you're still going to be tanky enough that you're not going to die right away. And then specifically, the white mage becomes the most unbalanced character because you can heal yourself and you still have, like, Holy, which can break the damage cap and scales like a black mage's top level spells do. So you're like a heavily light armored character with a lot of health, a hammer, because you can use cudgels, that or a staff that scales off of magic, so you don't actually even need strength in the first place. So you're still hurting people in close proximity if they get to you, that can heal yourself and nuke an entire team. But again, this is end game past what would even be the final boss, so I don't even care that it becomes that broken for a single class or two by that point.
But you would think, like, with Dungeons and Dragons, there's interesting things, interesting spells and abilities all the way up to level 20.
Yeah.
So you think they put more effort into keeping it balanced so that it's fun to play all the way up to
You would
level
think.
20.
Or you could just play Cleric and not care and be the most broken class in the game. And people still like to shit on Cleric, but it's like, no, dude, if you wanna have an easy time, play Cleric. just play Cleric. You're gonna be healing. As long as you don't break concentration, you can have Spirit Guardians swarming around you for 15 feet in all directions, where people have to do wisdom saving throws if they step in that circle or move at all within that circle. Basically every single turn. All kinds of things. You need to harm, which is like 14d6 of damage.
And can't a cleric like wear plate mail and stuff like that?
I don't think natively, but there are ways that you can get it to wear plate mail.
Or at least
that don't break the game.
I thought clerics could wear heavy armor.
I know there are oaths that let you wear heavy armor. I don't think vanilla cleric can. But why would you not take an oath?
Well, maybe a war cleric. Isn't there such thing as a war cleric?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, I know you can't use any bladed weapons, but you can use.
But well, there's also so one of the gods or whatever, it's not an oath because that's what a paladin takes, but it's like the same thing, you know. It's your allegiance to whatever god. If you take like the Path of Twilight now, which was a Unearthed Arcana, but I think they actually added it in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. If you take the Twilight one, it actually lets you wear heavy armor. You're basically a dark paladin without bladed weapons. And it's ridiculous because it also lets you see in the dark for free, even if you're not like a elf or something like that.
Drow,
And
yeah.
if you're in darkness, it lets you walk on darkness, so you can eventually basically just fly by walking on shadow. Like, why?
Right.
Why would you ever let anyone do that?
See, so I'm looking up. I'm curious now because I feel like okay, all right. So starting proficiencies, medium armor and shields. You can also
Yeah,
have
yeah, you can have shields. That already helps enough too. Though shields aren't the most useful thing in the world, the way they mechanically work with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I think they just raise your armor class. I don't think they do anything else. But still, if you can raise your armor class, why would you not?
It's domain, right? Or channel
Domain, that's
divinity?
it. Yeah, I couldn't remember. It's your domain.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
can
remember if
select-
Tasha actually added Twilight Domain or not, but there is an Unearthed Arcana for the Twilight Domain, and that one I know for a fact lets you wear heavy armor. I forget what the other domains do.
Divine domain. Oh, this is not telling me everything. I'd have to look in the rule book to see all the
But
domains.
the domains
but I feel
are
like
the cleric's version of the Paladin's Oath. They do the same thing. They're towards the same gods and stuff. They're just slightly
And I feel
different.
like
Like
there's-
Paladin does this thing, cleric does this thing.
yeah, I feel like there is one that's like makes you basically a war cleric.
Yeah, no, you totally can be a war cleric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can raise armor class by 2, and with certain feats, it can actually be used to cancel spell attack. That's cool. He's talking about shields.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's only if you have the feat. Shields are kind of useless if you don't have the feat for it, other than raising your armor class. But again, raising your armor class by 2 in D&D is a lot, because that means you're going to not get hit more often than not.
Damn it. Damn it.
That's why,
So
even though
what
it's
do you-
extra math, I kind of like the way that the armor works in this game that we're playing, because it works like a Final Fantasy game. So you still have evasion, which is like your hit roll, where armor class normally applies, but then we also have your armor subtraction from it. Like, your armor actually does something, other than just basically being your evasion. But clerics are busted.
Right.
People like, I don't want to be a cleric. Why would I want to? No, clerics are freaking busted. Why would you not want to be a cleric? You learn necromancy as a cleric. You don't even. You're like, I want to be a necromancer. It's like, necromancy is default to cleric. Half of the cleric spells are necromancy.
Yeah.
They underlook. And cleric's always been busted, by the way. And it's nothing to do with like 5e. You go back to the original Dungeons and Dragons, and cleric was like the most busted class you could pick, and everybody's like, I don't want to be the healer. Only girls play healer. It's like, you don't want to be the healer because you don't understand how stupid this class is. It's kind of like Bard. People who don't understand how stupid Bard is, like, I don't want to be a Bard. Bards just sleep with everyone. It's like, no, Bards are your super utility class that can also fence with people and get away with basically everything.
Yeah. I remember even in the gold box games that were based on first edition AD&D,
Yeah.
clerics were awesome because they could cast hold person.
Yeah.
That was critical, especially when fighting magic users and stuff like that. You could hold everything.
Yeah, well, and
Made it
also
a-
what Travis said too, especially if your brother let slip that you're doing a horror campaign.
Yeah.
He let me know this. He wasn't even let slip in the DMs. I think eventually he did, but I was talking to him when he was setting up his campaign. I didn't know I was going to be playing in it, and I was giving him advice and stuff because he wanted to make a horror campaign, and he was looking for another person to play, and I was going to be in town. He's like, yeah, I'll even drive you back and forth because I lived on the other side of the DFW at the time, if you're not in town during those days. And it's like, well, I know it's a horror campaign. I'm just going to play cleric. Right? And clerics, they're basic. Like, the first thing you get with your divine domain is you get destroy undead. That you can do, like, twice a day between rests and stuff. Mm-hmm. So he's just got, like, all these undead fiends. I'm like, okay, destroy undead. And it's like, oh, what? It's like, yeah. And half of what I do is holy magic anyway. So, like, Sacred Flame. I'm doing double damage to, like, everything that he's putting out there. It's like, why did you let me know you were running a horror campaign?
Isn't there? Is it Final Fantasy where casting Cure on undead actually harms them?
Yes, it is. Because they're the way they code it too. I think is they technically have negative health, but damage to undead, like physical damage, counts as healing them, so it brings up their health from the negative. And that way, if you cast Cure on it, it's healing them, which brings them back to 0. And you're basically taking them from the negative of whatever the health reader is. So it's like they drop off the minus. If they have 890 health, you're bringing them closer and closer to 0 from the opposite direction. And in some cases, which this is something that carried over to Bravely Default, and I'm like, well, Final Fantasy games work this way, so I wonder if this works. I was fighting an undead dragon in Bravely Default, and it's supposed to be like this big, terrible boss that was blocking your way to the castle in the final assault in this rotation, because you have to replay history like 5 times. But,
cast life on it?
What?
Did you cast life on it?
No, I did not. It would have been raised in that game, because they don't use the original names. Right. They use the stuff later. No, I threw a phoenix down at it, and it died in one shot. Yeah,
well, there you go.
Yeah, that's all I did do. I just, very start of the battle, I'm going to try this. Phoenix down, and it died. Yeah. Da-da-da. Well, they don't have the Final Fantasy victory, I forget. They do have their own fanfare in Bravely Default that cycles, and in Octopath, the 2 different ones. But they try to keep like the motifs of Final Fantasy in those games. So they'll have like an opening line and then a cycle part that just goes through. And I like it. And it's like, yeah, just battle's over. Tough boss, done in 1 hit.
Yep. If you know the trick.
Yeah.
Phoenix down.
Didn't need to walk through anything. It's like, yeah, I've played enough Final Fantasy games. I know what I'm doing.
Of course, if it was Final Fantasy 2, it'd probably miss.
Probably.
It's ridiculous. You can. I've missed with like every protect spell I've ever tried, and I've even missed with the life spell.
Well, this is what I'm telling you too, right? And you're questioning it, but I've played a lot more Final Fantasy than you have, or I've also finished a lot more Final Fantasies than you have. And I was like, these things that are auto-hitting in the game, in some of the games, can definitely miss. And then you're like, wait, can they miss? And now you're experiencing firsthand in some of the games, especially 2, everything that you think, like, if I cure my teammate, it shouldn't be able to miss. That's kind of putting a status spell on a teammate. That's unique to 2. I don't think that misses in any other game.
I don't think Cure has ever missed.
I don't think Cure does. But like putting Shell or Protector stuff, that's unique to 2. That doesn't miss in other games.
Yeah.
But that's also in later games. I think 3, because I don't think Reflect is in 2. But I think Reflect is in 3. I don't know. Have you seen Reflect? I don't remember if it's in 2 or not. It's been a while since I played that one. You have? Okay.
Yes. In fact, I was worried because I cast, without thinking, I cast Reflect on one of my characters, and I was like, oh shit, am I not going to be able to heal them now? But apparently heal or cure is not affected by Reflect.
So that was the point I was going to get to, because I that's probably why I forget if Reflect is in it. As of 3 and on, any single targeted spell that you put onto your teammate can be reflected. So, like, if you try to cure somebody who has Reflect on it, it cures an enemy instead, or, Protect or anything like that.
Yeah, that's not the case in Final Fantasy 2.
One of the things I like to do is, 4 specifically, because you can cast Reflect on a whole party for bonus magic. You just hit to the side and it selects everybody instead. You can also cast Reflect on everybody on the enemy team at once. Right? So what I would do is at the start of the battle, if it was a hard one, I would just cast Reflect on the enemy team. And, I'm counting in my head. I know how many turns Reflect lasts. And I'm only casting Curiga on the enemy team so that it cures me for even more, because reflected spells do more than the non-reflected spell.
That's smart.
Yeah. Or, specifically, they do this in the Magus Sisters, when you have to fight the 3 of them. It's like Sandy, Mandy, and Mindy, I think are their names, or something like that. They're the 3 Magus Sisters. Not the first game you fight them in, and not the last, but they're a big deal in that game. Because they're actually a main part of the story, not like a bonus thing. And
Which game? Which game?
Final Fantasy IV, you have to fight the Mage's Sisters in. And they cast reflect on themselves and do that. It's actually kind of like the game teaching you to do this thing if you haven't been doing it up to this point. And they'll cast reflect on you too. So because you know you're going to be reflected, and you might want to cast reflect on yourself a couple times just to buffer the changeover time so you don't actually kill yourself, you cast all your offensive spells on yourself because spells can't be reflected more than once, and all your curative spells on them while you're trying to kill them, so that it reflects back to the opposite direction.
Yeah. I vaguely remember that. But I feel like it was... I don't know if it was in the role-playing game or somewhere else where I was seeing that there's a flag on certain spells like Cure in Final Fantasy II, I guess, where it doesn't get affected by Reflect.
Yeah. There are specific spells that do and don't. In the role-playing game, you'll see that too. There's a little R or an NR next to the MP in the HTML site, and it tells you whether it can or can't be reflected. Calls, summons, can't be reflected.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it might have been on a wiki somewhere where I was looking up spell for Final Fantasy II.
Which is weird that summons can't be reflected, because in 4, one of the big things is you kill Bahamut by reflecting his Mega Flare back onto him. Right?
I guess it doesn't count as a summon.
Yeah, it was not a summon at the time, but he does the exact same thing when you summon him afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
When he does it, it's not a summon, but when you call him... No, it's his
move. But then when you call him, he does his move. That's the weird part about the mechanic of the game. I guess there's a little asterisk on it, or whatever, like a 1 or a 0 that tells you whether this is the summon doing the move or not.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a completely different move. It's probably
yeah.
Or a different record. It may be called the same, but they're completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, because that one probably does fixed damage, and this one probably has some type of substitution formula that puts in your magic value or something into it, so it scales off of that because it does more damage the higher level you are.
Yeah.
But you can only fight the Bahamut at a fixed level, so his only has to do I wouldn't say fixed damage, but it would be a range. It would be between this and that, and the system would roll it.
So here's a question for you, which you don't have to answer, but you could if you want. What do you think of my choice when I raised to level 6 of choosing ice over poison as my next spell? Because I was thinking originally, that dragon that we went up against was strong to all of the elemental spells, but not strong against poison, I don't think.
Well, he was strong to the 3 traditional elemental spells.
Right.
But yeah.
Ice, thunder, and fire. But then I just thought, well, I mean, even though I have ice arrows, I feel like it might be beneficial to have the ice spell as well.
No,
but poison basically does the same thing.
Arrows around forever?
Say again?
Or you're even going to keep those ice arrows around forever, right? You might upgrade them to something else later. You might have holy arrows or something like that.
Yeah. So poison does exactly the same thing, except there's an additional chance to actually poison or cause...
Yeah, and if you cause poison, what it does is 10% of their current health for each turn that they're poisoned. Which is a pretty good effect.
Yeah, and there's a chance of that happening, and then... and it costs 2 extra magic points, basically.
Which is just for that chance. That's why it costs more.
Right, but other than that, it does the exact same damage, just with poison element.
Well, I've got 2 different perspectives on that decision. One, I think Blizzard overall is just a better spell because I'm trying to match the actual weaknesses of enemies and stuff from Final Fantasy as much as possible, and there's just a lot more things in the game that are specifically weak to ice than there are to poison. But that said, there's also a lot more things that are specifically strong against ice than they are to poison, because poison's kind of an almost neutral thing. There's very few things that have a resistance to it.
Yeah.
It's like mostly plants end up being resistant to poison because they're one of the things that give off poison and stuff like that. Undead, a lot of times, are just outright immune to poison. But there's not a lot of things, right? Ice is just something that is either more or less effective en masse, right? Like, one of those two will be there than there is for poison. And I think it's just overall a spell that gets used more. So I would probably have taken it myself as well. But, at the same time, the other perspective is I'm kind of glad you didn't take poison, at least not yet, or whatever. Because I don't want to have to keep track of the poison damage if I don't have to.
No.
I was already worried about having to do that with Rick, but his rolls have been so bad with the chance of effect back when he had his poison axe that he never ended up poisoning anything.
Well, I mean, luckily,
Yeah.
I imagine I might get poisoned eventually, but at least I can only cast it on one thing, right?
Yeah.
You can't do a party attack with that.
No. I don't think you get a group attack until you start getting into the second level of the elements, like Fura and stuff like that. Those are single or group you can pick, and if you cast it on a group, it'll have like a target AOE, which, if you want to know what those look like, they're in the extra rules at the bottom of the sidebar. There's like map rules. It says new rules and all that stuff. And it only does 75% damage to each member of the group than if you were to single target it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's that much. I'm surprised it's not 50%.
Yeah, I am too. But hey, that's what the rules say.
Yeah. Well, there are higher level spells, so I mean, I guess they're more geared towards group damage.
And they're more costly.
No. Funny that in Final Fantasy II they don't have a distinction. They just have you raise the levels of the spells, which makes the life spell ridiculously OP, because it's like you can get it so early on and cast it, and it only uses 1 MP. It's crazy. Like, I don't want to use it too much because it'll eventually raise the level and then it'll cost 2. But at the moment, it's like I can cast life 1,000,000 times. It's easy.
Well, you know, actually, what's a broken spell in Final Fantasy in general, but also in the RPG we're playing. But it's like a really low drop rate in the actual like Final Fantasy V, where the spell comes from. But it's almost like guaranteed in the RPG. And that's Goblin Punch. It's a blue magic. I don't know if you're familiar with Goblin Punch. It comes from Final Fantasy V, where the blue mage first shows up. And the blue mage has this ability. It's like a Azure Lane or whatever. And it basically allows you to scan an enemy that uses a move, and there's a chance that you'll learn that blue magic from them, right? Because blue mages use monster magic. And Goblin Punch is one that has a very low RNG of you actually scanning it, for a very good reason. Because it costs 1 MP, and it does... this is how it works in the actual game, too. So this is like one of the few ones where it scales properly. 4 times your weapon attack.
Nice.
For 1 MP.
Very nice.
Yeah, blue mages can use swords. So.
Say that again?
And blue mages can use swords, so their attack is always pretty good. And you can do that in this RPG too. I checked, it's 1 MP, and it does 4 times whatever your normal weapon attack would be, and I think it auto hits.
No.
Yeah, it's seriously? Like, why? What? You'd have to learn it from a goblin, but you also get to start off with like a few blue magic, so why would you not just pick Goblin Punch?
Oh, you can just pick it?
Well, it's... So, the way the blue magic system works, you get to start with like 3, I think, just to be fair, because all mages get to start with like 3 magic. And it has to be under a certain MP cost, because there's no levels to blue magic. It's what monsters have. So they score it by MP. Right? How much it costs to use that spell. And they kind of line up, too. So if you actually look at... in the monster creation, there's like 8 tiers of like this MP to this MP for the blue magic, so there is kind of like 8 tiers of spells.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they're like, yeah, you have to pick a monster spell that's like 3 monster spells that are under this MP to start. And because Goblin Punch is only 1 MP, it's always available to start.
Mm-hmm.
And like, why would you not pick up Goblin Punch? That is broken. For not basically free, because it's 1 MP, I could do 4 times my attack.
Why don't they? Maybe that's a typo. Maybe it's supposed to be 10 MP or something.
Well, I think it's 1 because in the game, Goblin Punch only costs 1. It's so goblins can use it, because goblins aren't going to have a lot of MP.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Either make it more expensive or to cast,
yeah,
or make it so that you can't just choose it. That you actually
I
have
think I would homebrew it to where that's not available for like a choosing option.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy that you can just pick one.
I was going to give it to the Goblin Guard when you guys eventually came across to it, like the 2nd level Goblin, but I definitely wasn't going to give it to 1st level Goblins because being able to cast that would have screwed your team up when you first went up against them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would have been like, okay, now I have to do their basic attack math, now I have to multiply that by 4, and that's what you guys are getting hit by now. And at like level 1, if you went up against goblins, they would have just like one-shot members of your team if they were doing 4 times their attack.
Yeah, or and at this point they probably still would one-shot Timothy.
yeah. So we could talk about a little bit of what happened last time. Not much actually happened, but Timothy, who just showed up in the chat, rejoined. He's been working the last few weekends, so he hasn't been able to play. He's many levels behind, but he hasn't been out enough sessions or long enough into the game that I would have to count his character as being removed and having to catch up to like the lowest level of the team or something like that. Like a character that comes and goes in Final Fantasy. You guys haven't even gotten past Chapter 1. If you had moved into Chapter 2, then I probably would have done some type of catch-up thing with him.
But he's catching up fast.
Huh?
He's catching up fast because he doesn't need to get as much experience.
So he comes running in, and you guys said you were going to fight these mobs anyway. They're headed back to town after fighting this giant shield worm that they fought last time. This big dragon with rings. And because they were going to fight these guys, I'm like, okay, well, Timothy's character's a thief. I'm going to have it that he tried to, like, steal from this rock golem. And now the rock golem is chasing him into the party. That's how he comes back in.
Mm-hmm.
And, you guys... The rock golem was hard because it's got a lot of health. And it does have the ability to immobilize you. And, like, the majority of your team, including the guest character, got immobilized. It was just the 2 mages, you and Flit, that were still able to attack. But also, other than the guest character, because golems are weak to magic, you guys were doing the most damage to him anyway. Or weak to ice, you were using your bow for the most part.
Yeah.
They're not protected against magic, but they're also weak to ice. They have very low magic defense. And
I didn't have the ice spell at the time.
Yeah.
It was a good thing I had ice arrows.
And it's a good thing that Flit finally has scan from the last session, so he can actually start scanning things.
Yeah, and his arrow is strong, especially when something's weak or strong to elemental damage.
Yeah, and,
or when it's weak to wind damage, I guess.
Yeah. And after that, you guys decided just whatever. That took too long. We're gonna pick off all the weak things because the guest character can one-shot them. Because what really happened was the guest character's like, hey, I'm not going into that shrine with you. I did the thing that I was going to do, and that shrine is really spooky. I'm heading back to town. You could come back with me, or you could go on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys all decided to go back with her, and on the way, take out all the mobs to get as much experience as possible. There's a few level ups that happen between people. But the interesting thing, the funniest thing that happened that whole time was not even in the mountain. It was on the way back. It was in the plains. No. It was because Timothy went to go stab a goblin, and he critically missed, and nearly killed himself. He actually would have killed himself because he forgot to add his bonus hit points from each level up, because he leveled up like 2 times. And he would have killed himself because you guys gave him a Mage Masher, and at that point he could do more damage than the amount of health that he had, and the critical miss caused him to hit himself. But luckily, after adding the hit points, he had 2 HP left.
Yeah. Almost killed himself, or almost knocked himself out. See, that wasn't my funniest moment.
Was when Red Coco killed Rick's Chocobo?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah. So most of the time with this guest character, because she's a blue mage. That's funny enough. We were talking about blue mages. Who I think she does have Goblin Punch, by the way. I just never bothered to use it. Probably because I don't think I could get the macro to work properly with Goblin Punch. I think that's the real thing, because it has to take your weapon skill or your weapon value, and then it has to multiply it by 4. I guess if I made Goblin Punch a weapon instead of a magic, I could probably get that to work, and then like it in bracket and then multiply the whole thing by 4.
Or can't you just manually basically put in the same formula as the weapon
and then put 4 around it? Maybe.
Yeah.
I could probably do that. I was trying to find some way where I can like use the names of things to get it to do that, but it was too complicated for however that sheet was working. I could probably just put in the name of the weapon, or I could have just rolled the weapon and then multiplied it by 4, the easy way. But like whatever, I could just hit buttons for their spells. So for the most part, I've been using spells with that character, but this time like there's only like one thing here. I'm just gonna have her use her weapon. She critically missed and hit Rick's Chocobo and killed it in one shot, because this character is so strong that nobody in your team would be able to survive a single shot from her if she used her weapon.
Yeah.
And Rick wanted to revive his Chocobo, and everybody's like, why are you wasting a Phoenix down on that thing?
It doesn't do much damage. It doesn't help very much. Like, I'm not even sure what the point. It seemed good at first, but now it's just like, I mean, it has a high hit points, a lot of hit points, but very low armor, and it never seems to hit very well.
Well, at least now, it actually was doing a lot of damage last time, because I gave him the call for the Chocobo move, for his third move that he gets, right? At level 5, I said he gets another move. And I gave him Chocobo Kick. And Chocobo Kick does a d4 for every level. So right now it's 5d4 of damage, which isn't a lot, right? That's a maximum of 20, but it's damage that's not mitigated by armor or magic armor.
Okay.
And
but like the first time he rolled it. Okay. But like the first time he rolled it, he got a 5, or he got
because you could potentially just get 5 ones, right? Which is what he got.
Is it 5 times a single roll, or is it?
No, it's actually supposed to be 5d4. I think he's doing it wrong. Because I think he's putting 5 times a d4, and not 5 next to the d4. Because it depends how you type it in Roll20, right? And I don't know how I have it in the macro. It might have been me messing it up. I need to go check.
Yeah. Maybe look at that, because the last time he did it, he got a 5. And I was like, really?
It's like, how would you get 5? Yeah, I'll double check.
5 1. Like, with Rick's luck, I guess that's possible, but
yeah, that one would give you very specific outputs, right? Because if it's times the d4, you'll always get either a 5, a 10. It'll always be a divisible of 5, so there'll be specific outcomes. If it's 5 d4s, it could be anywhere between 5 and 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to go check how it is. I could have inputted it wrong, because I think he was just using the macro.
Yeah, I feel like he probably was.
Yeah.
I think I assumed that it was 5 times, but if it's
Yeah.
supposed to be 5 D4s, might want to look at that macro. Can you put in those macros? Can you put things like the character level as?
Yeah. Level.
As a.
I think
variable?
that might have been the problem. I don't know if I could put level D4. I think I have to put level times D4 for the macro. So I think that's the only way it can work. I think that's how I have it happening. I don't know. You know what? I'll do a test. I'll see if I put the multiplication there, if I delete it, because the way an attribute works is it's at, and then it's not the regular bracket. I can't remember the name of it, but the one with that twists out when you hit shift on the bracket. You know what I'm talking about? On your keyboard where.
Oh, you mean like the curly braces?
Yeah, curly braces. I could not remember the name of it. So it's at, and then within curly braces, the value. So like level, right? And then that'll be the substitution there. So because it's in curly braces, I don't know if I have to put times or if I get rid of the asterisk, if it'll count that as a number itself, like the normal D4 roll. I'll try it immediately after we're done with the show here, to see if it can work, because he might be getting better inputs that way.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that it would be, well, it'd be less likely to get a low roll.
Yeah. I mean, he could still get a 5, but it'd be less likely to just get a 5.
Yeah, extremely unlikely, because basically, if it's times, then it's always going to be a 25% chance that he gets the lowest possible roll. Whereas, otherwise, it's a much, much lower chance.
Yeah.
Of course, it's also a much lower chance that he'd get a high roll.
Yeah, like it still becomes a much more likely, well, equally likely, but infinitely more likely than the other way of getting a 6 than a 5. Because in the other way you can't get a 6. So it is infinitely more likely. But it's also equally likely in that way of getting a 6 and a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'd have a bell curve distribution.
Usually, yeah. With 5 being the bottom and 20 being top for this level, and then it gets it moves. It'll always be the same amount because you're. I think no, it won't. It'll get lighter because the next one 6 will be the lowest, and then
so the low
and the 20.
The low always goes up by 1.
The high goes up faster. Yeah, so it becomes wider each time.
Right.
And more often than not, he'll be rolling the average, so that average point will be slowly scooting along at about half the rate that the end is.
No.
Yep.
A quarter
That's
of the rate.
That's how math works.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's funny, now I feel like, well, luckily I don't have that. Luckily we're not using real dice, but eventually if I play more of these games, I'm going to have to get more dice.
Or you just, because it depends. You could, low level 5, it's like, I could roll 5 times. But if you get to level 99 and you're rolling 99 D4.
Yeah. Over and over and over.
Yeah.
That's the benefit. Like 10 in your hand.
Right? The benefit of using Roll20 or something like that for these high level games.
Yeah.
Because at some point Rick could end up rolling 99 D4 that's not mitigated by armor or magic armor.
Yeah.
Which by that point, that still won't be a lot of damage, but it's great that it doesn't get reduced by anything, so you can never be at the point that somebody's armor completely blocks it.
It's still going to be a very mediocre character.
Yeah.
Best.
But even, like, say, doing 350 damage at level 99, and you happen to see something whose armor is 150, it's like, well, I would have only done 200 damage, but now I'm still doing the full 350 damage because it's not mitigated by anything.
Yeah, but then other characters will be like, well, I'm doing 9,999 damage.
I was trying to balance it to where it wasn't broken, though, right? Because this is a
Mhm.
familiar. It's a pet. And I think Rick picked it because he thinks, oh, I'll have a full other character that I can do things with. And it's like, I want you to get a lot of use out of this because you used an advantage point, which means you also have to take a disadvantage with it. But I also don't want it to be so broken that you're the only highlight of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want it to be useful, which is why I gave him a move that can never be mitigated by armor or magic armor. So even if, the enemy gets really tough, he can still do something with it. He's still chipping away at him.
And can't miss, because I think it's frustrating to Rick that he misses a lot. Especially with Charge. Charge always misses, it seems.
Well, Charge is supposed to, not always miss, but miss more often than not. Yeah. I gave it such a low hit rate because it can hit everything in a line. And it can also add Confuse. So it's like, it's a really good move if it hits. It's probably not going to hit.
It's a decent move against lower level, multiple mobs. Smaller characters.
Like actual mobs, yeah.
Yeah. Not really a great move to use against a dragon, for instance.
Yeah.
Which may or may not have happened 2 weeks ago.
Well, so his character, his bird was completely useless against the dragon because the armor was too high.
Yeah.
I was already planning on giving him Chocobo Kick because I'm like, it makes sense. It's Chocobo. That's the call for the Chocobo. That's actually not in the game either. I had to go look into some other games, look at like the actual mechanics of how the move works in Final Fantasy. Say how, like say D20, Pathfinder, D&D mods of Final Fantasy do it, and come up to a conclusion of how it should work in this game. And I was doing that before his bird as well because I already put a Geisel Green in the game, which means you can summon a Chocobo. But I figured, like, it makes sense to his character to be able to use Chocobo Kick at some point in time.
Yeah.
And I figured 5 would be the best time to give it to him because he's going to start coming up against things that have a lot of armor, and his Chocobo's going to be completely useless if it can't penetrate the armor. And I was hoping he would do that before fighting that boss. I put so many enemies in your guys' way, and Diller's just like, nah, we're going to go fight the boss right away.
Like I said, well, yeah.
Because at least it would have been doing a lot, but potentially up to 20 damage that can never be mitigated. He would have still been helping chip away at this boss instead of pecking at this thing's tail and doing nothing the entire time. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it was just a lot of grinding. I was thinking to myself afterwards, like, we're not going to have much to talk about, but I guess we did have a couple of humorous moments.
Yeah, it was a pretty funny session for having nothing but grinding.
Yeah. If we go back there, we're not going to have our what race was she again?
She's a Tarataru, just like Flit's character.
Tarataru. Yeah. We're not going to have our super OP Tarataru, but we could probably still take some of that, especially since we got some soft potions. We could probably take out some more of those cockatrices. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if people want to do that or not, or if we want to participate in the.
I was talking to John afterwards. There is something to do, and he might want to do it. Rick is fine with your team doing it. He just knows there's no point in him participating, and that is the Coliseum in town. There's a novice level tournament.
I was going to say, unless we want to participate in the Coliseum.
Yeah. And I can break down how that works. I have to re-explain it when we get into the session, too, if you decide to. But basically, it's a bracket tournament that's got 3 rungs. So it's like first round, semifinals, and finals. And there are 8 participants. But depending on how many people in your party sign up, I have to remove some of the 7 NPCs. There have to be at least 7 because there has to be at least 1 player participating for the tournament to go on. But I can remove more depending on how many people get put in there. And then you guys will literally just do 1v1 battles going up this 3-rung tournament. And just making it past round 1 ensures you will get some type of reward. And you get more rewards the closer and closer you get to being the winner of this tournament.
Is it against each other?
Yeah, you could end up against each other if you progress far enough in the tournament, yeah.
And I guess if we get knocked out, we can just go stay to the end, right?
Yeah, it's just to a normal knockout. So, like, nobody's killing each other in the tournament. It's just, hit points reach 0, you get knocked out. Which is why there's no point in Rick participating, because he can never bring a single person's hit points to 0 by himself.
Can he participate, but...
He asked me to. Like, I'm glad he asked, because I was going to be cheeky and I was going to let him enter, and then when his round come up, I'll be like, okay, well that round's over because Rick can't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to be mean, but it's like, no, I'm actually glad you kind of asked. No, I don't have to be mean now.
Well, I mean, can he be allowed to participate even if, like knowing that it's just a competition, he still can't bring someone down to 0?
That's how his mechanic works.
And they can't make a special dispensation where all he has to do is bring him down to 1?
Yep. Well, because when you're doing that against a human anyway, it's knocking a person out. He can't knock a person out. Because he also can't attack an unaware opponent either. Or bring them to unawareness. Because it's not just his code of mercy, he also has code of honor. Yeah. He really picked two disadvantages that are really bad on a Dragoon. If he was a paladin, this would have been fine.
not being able to kill anyone is just or knock them out is terrible.
Yeah, like I said, if he was a paladin, it would have also made sense, because paladins you expect to have a higher calling because they're members of the clergy, but they're also knights. And also, when he can't kill anybody anymore, he would be able to heal during that time and just be like a healing tank. But as a Dragoon, which their entire class is, I'm tanky, but the tankiness is to help me survive in between my jumps, because I'm a one-shotter. My whole thing is burst damage, and I'm trying to kill somebody in one shot. But instead, I'm taking this disadvantage that stops me from being able to kill anybody, or to attack somebody who's unaware.
Well, people pick terrible disadvantages. There's also the disadvantage that basically prevents you from getting better equipment, because you constantly have to spend all your money. Only if he has to go through
that one spot in town.
Yeah.
Which he did bypass this time. There was something he wanted from there, but Dillard went and got it for him.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah.
I have to look up prices, because I have a lot of gold now. It would be nice if I could get even better armor, especially if we're going to go to the Colosseum. My magic armor is awesome. My regular armor is pretty good, but could be better. Could definitely be better. But here's a question for you. The tier of equipment, can you not wear certain tiers? Or
okay, you know what? This was actually asked to me after the session, after you left, by somebody else. I think Dillard asked it. So the tier is really for my sake as the GM than anything.
Okay.
If you can buy it, and if your character can wear the type, you can wear it. If you find it in the wild, you can wear it. If you have the equipment, you can wear it as long as it fits within your character's parameters. The tier is partially connected to that availability rate.
Okay.
Right? And it's kind of like letting you know at what point in a campaign should this item be available to the players.
Okay.
Yeah. It also has to do with, like, which you see the availability rate next to it. When you make an experienced character, the experienced character has a formula for how much gold you should start with at that level. And then you could pick, like, equipment spending that gold, but there's limits on what equipment you could pick based on, like, tier and availability. It's more for, like, the metagame stuff than it is during an actual campaign.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't have to worry too much about that.
No. Unless I, as the GM, say something specific about it, like when you were going to the king and he said from the armory you could pick any tier 3 equipment. There's like the only time you guys ever have to worry about stuff like that.
Yeah. So like, and I guess the things of the same tier, basically, at least armor of the same tier, all give you basically the same armor level.
Yes. It's just a good way of gauging. It's also like if I make my own armor, it'll tell me what tier it is. There's like an armor and weapon creation system. It's a strength gauging thing. It's like you're at this point of the game, this is the stuff you should be having, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I've got, let me see here. Actually, I may have more. Oh, I didn't update my thingy. Are you expecting us to like basically just keep track on the Roll20 character sheets at this point?
At this point, yeah. Like I said, I should be updating the Google Doc myself because it's more for my notes. I haven't been. I forgot last time because I just got so busy making more stuff. Some of the other people are updating it just to be nice. Like Travis and Rick, I know, have been updating theirs. I think Flit said he might go and update his. You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
But it does save me time because I want to be able to make sure I have notes that aren't connected to Roll20, especially in case anything happens.
Can I launch the game when we're not playing?
Yeah. You'll be stuck on the map screen because that's where I left you guys off, but you can always launch it.
Well, that's fine. I really just wanted to bring up my character sheet because I didn't know how much gold I had. Let's see here.
That's another benefit of updating the Google Doc is that it you could just go straight in there without having to launch the game.
Yeah. So I can actually get the next tier up of robe. I can get a magician robe, which increases my magic.
I was assuming the shops have it. I think the way I made this town, I don't remember exactly, this is why I have a whole list, is I think they have most equipment up to tier 3. I don't know what a magician robe is.
It's tier 4.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll have it. I have to double check. I'm just off the top of my head, I think it's up to tier 3. Just because it's like, it would get you far enough through the game that way. Because you'd be going to back and forth from this town at least that much. And
Meaning
then after that point...
So they have no tier 4 equipment?
I don't know. I'd have to double check. I don't have the thing up in front of me. It could. Let me actually check right now. It shouldn't be that hard for you to...
I'm thinking in terms of the Colosseum because I'm like, I kind of want to upgrade my armor. But I
well, the thing is, too, nobody in the town at this point is going to have more than what you can get. So you're going to be fighting against other people that live in that town.
Well, yeah, but I'm also going to be fighting against John Dillard.
That's true.
That's going to present a problem if he punch rushes me. Because that might one hit.
You have range. He doesn't. Just kite him.
I could try, but I think we're at the same speed, aren't we?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Are you faster or is he faster? Oh, you said the same speed. So if you get better initiation, you could just keep moving away from him, and he'll never catch up.
Wait a minute. My speed is 8, so I should be able to move 4, right?
No. It's every 5 you get an additional one. You start with 2. So when you hit 5, that was your 3rd movement. When you hit 10, that's going to be your 4th movement. Timothy gets to move so much because thieves get an additional movement space just for being a thief.
No, wait a second. Is this mine? Is this my character sheet?
Is it your sheet? Which one are you on?
No, yeah, it is mine. I'm not sure that I... See, this is getting confusing because I'm updating one and not the other.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it is. Okay, but I'm confusing myself. Okay, wait.
So, like, Timothy's already at 10. So
the numbers on these are not
and then
right.
He's a thief, so he gets an extra, so he's at 5 movement.
But wait, this is saying my vitality maximum is 11, but it should be 6.
Really?
Yeah, and my strength maximum should be 8.
I think I just went in and I put in, what it should be for your job and race, right?
All these maxes are wrong. Unless I did it wrong.
I'll double check in a bit. I'm just trying to see what the shop has.
All right.
So what were you looking for? You're looking for a mage's robe, right? I just want to see if they have it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, just my character sheet has very different maximums from what the Roll20 character sheet says. Like all of them are different. So
yeah, I'll double check. I'm after the show because we are still live. We can talk about something more interesting for the last 10 minutes.
Sorry.
Anyway, I did say at some point we were going to talk about Cobra Kai. You did watch the first episode of the season, so we can at least talk about that first episode.
Yeah. I've heard good things about season 3. So far it's
I enjoyed it.
I don't know what you want to talk about, but
no, I mean again, we could just talk about at least the first episode, how the season opened up.
Yeah, Miguel's still in the hospital.
Yes, at that point,
in a coma.
Yeah. He is. It's kind of cool too, because I think at the first episode of the show he's like having this kind of like subconscious dream trap where he's like at the tournament fighting some guy. I don't even think he was at the tournament. It's just some like actor who exists in his dream that he's sparring against. It almost looks like the young Johnny, like that's what he's supposed to be representing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's supposedly at a tournament or whatever, but it's all in his head.
And he's like losing bad too, so he's like kind of trapped in his coma that way. It's a nice visual representation of what's going on with his fight.
Yeah. And everybody has turned against LaRusso and karate in general.
Yeah, the whole town. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it was like, oh my god, karate gangs. Like, what? I thought karate went away in the 80s. Like somebody actually says that. So that's funny.
Well, what's even funnier too is when you think about it, there were never even karate gangs back then, because it was Cobra Kai could be a gang, and then it's just the lone guy with Miyagi-Do. And now Miyagi-Do's enough that you could say there's two different gangs going on.
Yeah, rival gangs. What's funny is that when Karate Kid came out in the 80s, karate wasn't, I don't remember it ever being a big deal. I mean, maybe the movie made it.
Historically, because I've looked into this, Kung Fu was kind of a big deal in LA specifically because of Bruce Lee, and he had his studio, and there's Jeet Kune Do and all that stuff. But karate specifically really wasn't. I think that movie is what spurred it, and then you start getting like these studios popping up everywhere throughout like the late 80s and the early 90s. And it kind of just kept going. Because now, the people that don't even teach karate at all. They teach like American Taekwondo, but they put the word karate up on their side. And there's just studios everywhere. Like, it's been watered down to all hell. It's a popular thing. But it kind of just spurred up within the course of just like decades.
Yeah, but it was a little bit of humor. I mean, it's kind of self-aware in that how ridiculous it is that there's karate gangs. Timothy says, "What about arm wrestling?" I'm not sure. Are there arm wrestling gangs?
I don't know about that. I know arm wrestling is somehow like treated like a legit sport. There's like ESPN level commentary for arm wrestling.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But so everybody's turned against the LaRussos because I guess, well, I mean, it was his student that put Miguel in the coma.
Yeah.
So I guess that's,
And also, because drama gets around and gossip, everyone knows that the fight kind of started because of Sam and her weird love triangle thing between Miguel and Robbie. Like, everybody knows that. Even the other girl who actually started the fight got involved because of all Miguel and her.
Yeah. Timothy says, "Why can't they make a show based on Over the Top?" I would say make a show based on Roadhouse.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, there's some problems with that. Namely, like you're not going to get the returning main character. And the guy who is still alive that could be in it died in the movie, so he can't come back either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, anyway, what was sad was that the first episode was dedicated to that guy who I guess actually did have cancer.
Yeah. The
actor.
The Mark Hamill lookalike from the original, who was in the last season when all the gangs got back together, which is weird because he kind of vaguely looked like Mark Hamill when he was younger, and as he got older, he also kind of vaguely started looking like him as well. It's like, what kind of weird life path are you on that this is just how it's going? He just started sounding like him a bit too, like the way he talked.
Yeah. I guess if he kind of looked like him when he was younger, he just grew up to look like an older.
Yeah. But like aged in the same direction. It's like I guess you live in LA, you get like the same environmental effects, probably of similar diets and stuff like that too.
Yeah. John Dillard, you joined us right at the end here.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Have you watched any of Cobra Kai season 3?
I did. I watched episode 1 and episode 2.
Oh, good, because we were talking about 1. That's all Marsupial watched.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was terrible. And I don't want to think I want.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I binge watched the whole thing.
Yeah. It's very. It used to be very when it first, and it to me it kind of fell apart in season 2, the second half of season 2. But it used to be very like, oh, great, we're cutting past the fat and we're getting right to the meat of the story. And now it's like they're just setting up soap opera style stuff.
Yeah,
it's killing me. I don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah, they did start doing that in about like the second half of season 2. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about this one, without going to spoilers, right, is that they start. I said the cool thing about this one, without going into like spoilers, is that they do start showing you flashbacks of like Kreese and how he came to be.
Right.
And it does really give you context for the type of character that he is.
Yeah, but they metal. Okay. It gives context for the character that he is, but they've already shown him to be completely irredeemable.
No, well, that's the thing. At first, it looks like they're trying to show that there's a redeemable quality to him. By the time you're done, it actually leads you to the opinion you already have of Kreese.
Yeah, so what's the point?
Oh, it just strengthens him as a villain.
I don't know. I think they're doing it because he's recognizable, not because it's...
I don't know. I thought it was done pretty well.
Does it make him more likable or less likable?
Less. At least for me, I liked him more as a villain, but I liked him less as a person, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's just more fleshed out as a villain. So is that in episode 2? Or starting in episode 2? Because they didn't show anything.
I think the flashback starts in episode 2. It's something that kind of like gets spread out throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess because so the first episode really just shows sort of what the current status is of the school and everything, and kind of brings you up to speed with where Miguel is in his coma adventure.
I don't know. Is there a different director?
I don't know that. Maybe.
Because it does seem like a lot of the stuff is just all of a sudden it's there, and you're like, when the fuck did this happen? And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. I guess if I'm paying super close,
Netflix now. They might have pulled in a different director for it.
That's another thing I was wondering. I was like, wait a minute, didn't I have to like go and get like YouTube premium or something last year for this thing?
Yeah,
Or?
it was YouTube
Yeah.
Red, but now Netflix has bought it, and you can watch the whole thing, the backlog on Netflix for people who never saw Cobra Kai. They can go and do that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, that's another thing with the dynamic between LaRusso and Lawrence. They keep setting it up like, oh, it's like a goddamn will they won't they bromance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that happens
already.
like back and forth several times in this season.
Yeah, back and forth like many times in the second season. And I'm like, I thought we were done with this. Is this what it's gonna be from now on? We're just gonna keep rehashing this thing.
So wait, between who? Between Miguel and?
No.
Between Lawrence and LaRusso,
Oh yeah,
between the karate, made the two stars.
yeah. Like they're friends, and then they're fighting, and then they're friends, and then they're fighting, and they can
Yeah,
be
like-
fine.
And be friends. Come on, we already went through this.
Yeah.
Did we already go through this? We already went through this many times.
Hmm.
In the first and second season.
Yes.
They have multiple directors. They have a different director for every
Well,
episode.
typically shows have that, but who's like the series director or like the guy who oversees everything?
Showrunner.
And
the
John
showrunner.
Hurwitz.
Does it have showrunner on there?
Well,
For the longest time, that
yeah, it's ridiculous. They have
Macchio
different-
was also the same comic book creator, Ralph Macchio.
I mean, they've got different directors and different writers, like for every season.
Because I would have assumed that Zabka was going to be the showrunner when he first started promoting this stuff, but I guess he's not.
I'd have to look that up. I was looking up
Yeah.
director. Let me look up showrunner.
Like, I don't want to be like a stick in the mud, but I mean, enough is enough. With some of these side stories, I'm like, good God, man, let's move along.
Well, it's like I find myself caring about Daniel's stories. I find myself caring about Johnny's story. And I didn't like the Kreese one. It's just, I know it's supposed to be the next generation. I can't bring myself to care about the kids too much. And that was like that for most of season 2 as well.
Yeah.
Like, I like the kids' relationships directly with their senseis, but not like I don't care about them with each other.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's the same showrunners, Josh Heald and John Hurwitz.
Yeah. I guess they just decided to do a different direction or something. Because the pacing is definitely different. Like, I did enjoy the season. I'm not shitting on it or anything.
Yeah.
But I do agree that the pacing and a lot of the other things, it's different than it was the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. I mean, look at, Lost had the same showrunners all the way through. Game of Thrones
Yeah.
had the same showrunners. And yet, they changed. So,
Well, the worst part is, okay, and I think I already spoiled this at the beginning of the cast, it leaves you on another cliffhanger. Right? And that was my biggest problem with season 2.
yeah, it's your favorite thing, right?
Was that it left you on a cliffhanger that didn't resolve a plot, right? You can leave a cliffhanger, but whatever happened in that season, the plot needs to be resolved. So this is
Yeah.
going not just a 2-season plot now, this is becoming a 3-season long plot. Because the first season
And you
was a
already know
closed
from
plot.
past experience why they do that.
Yeah.
They actually don't have a resolution for the plot in mind, so they just extend it.
Yeah. Well, I think they have a resolution for the plot in mind now. It didn't have to take them this long to get it. Because it's looking like they're taking 3 seasons to do what they did in the first season.
Mm-hmm.
Get to the freaking tournament.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not enjoying it so far. I'm gonna keep watching a couple of more episodes, just because it's a water cooler show, which is very rare
Everyone's
these
going to be
days.
talking about it, yeah.
What?
As everyone's going to be talking about it, yeah.
Yeah, I can't miss that this touchstone, this cultural touchstone. I can't miss it, or else I'm gonna be in the dark for the rest of my life, just like I was with Frozen.
Although I may never watch The Mandalorian. I have no desire to watch that.
Same.
Yeah, it's not for you.
That's right. They need to do The Mandalorian, but for Star Trek.
Yeah, they do.
Since every Star Trek show has sucked since whatever Enterprise. I liked Voyager, by the way.
Since season 6 of the TNG.
Yeah, right. Talking about season 7 was the best one.
No, it wasn't.
When they all turn into animals, come on.
Yeah.
Well,
You should make an animated Star Trek again, but not the lower decks, like that one that was like the Star Trek animated series.
sure.
Yeah. Because then you can bring back as many people you want, and for anybody who's dead, you can get an impressionist to do them, and you could do whatever show you want at that point.
Or they could just bring in Vic Mignogna to play
Kirk,
Captain
yep.
Kirk.
Yeah. That's who I would bring in. He already did a pretty good job once.
I know. Travis says, possibly with less furries. There are some interesting furries in some of the, background characters in some scenes in Star Trek.
I'm shaking my head.
Yeah. Fewer furries, but more tribbles.
So what is it that you like about this? What is it that made you binge the entire thing, Metal?
Oh, I usually binge something. Like, if I start a show like that, I just, if I know it's one season, I'll just binge
So
it.
there is nothing that actually made you do it.
No, there's nothing that compelled me to, but I did like it.
Like, for instance,
I don't want to spoil anything. That's the problem.
And I know, I'm just asking, like, in general.
Yeah.
But okay, like, for instance, when I used to watch the show 24,
Yeah.
this was back in the golden age of my TV years, where I was like, I had my garage set up with a big screen DLP TV. It was massive, and I could have all the lights off, and I could get popcorn and candy, and just kind of spend as much time as I wanted to in there.
Yeah.
And I would watch 24. And every show would end in such a fever pitch cliffhanger, but with so much action resolution in every episode, that I could not, in good conscience, not immediately hit next episode on the DVD, right? You just couldn't. It's too good, it's too much. Whereas I finished the first episode of Cobra Kai season 3, turned it off, fell immediately to sleep.
See, I don't think I've
when you watch a
felt
good
that
show,
way towards a show.
When you watch a really good show, it's hard to go to sleep. You want to watch next episode.
No, I'm saying I
available to
don't
you.
think I've ever felt that way about a show.
Oh, well, you're probably just dead inside.
Yeah, well,
That's the
I am
problem.
dead inside. This is common knowledge. No, so
That's
what
why
I liked,
cliffhangers exist, because people feel things inside Metal, you see?
Yeah. So, you remember how in season 2 specifically, the character development kind of steered away from like the same formula that was in the movies? Because season 1 kind of steered the character development the same way the movies did.
Mm-hmm.
And season 2 kind of went away from that. The character development in this season was a lot closer to season 1 and the movies, and that's what I was enjoying the most about it.
Really?
In fact, it actually, especially halfway through the season, it was really starting to remind me of the movies, and they did a lot more callbacks and stuff. They were trying to bring back all kinds of things. They go to Okinawa at some point. Okay, there's a spoiler, and it did remind me heavily of the movies, and I think that's what I was liking the most about it. There's a lot of like really good, actual, somewhat emotional character development going on.
Okay, because season 1 was pretty believable.
Yeah.
In the sense, the way they set it up, it was like, okay, this guy's he's old, he's beat up, but he's getting his second wind. He wants to go back and open up. He's seeing a void. He wants to fill that void. He's seeing something that's wrong with the world. He wants to set up his gym. He wants to make a stand, make a statement, kind of thing, and trying to change the world that's going on around him for the better. And then he has trials and hardships doing that, and they bring back a lot of hokey stuff, but not too hokey. Like season 2 went full caricature.
Yeah.
like season two was essentially a cartoon, and I was like, oh, well, again, it was gradual, but I don't think anybody would tell me I'm a liar if I said
No,
that
no, no. I wouldn't.
Latter half of season 2, and especially the finale, was just a 100% comical, completely unrealistic, and didn't have the same spirit as the first season.
Yeah, yeah, and you do get a little bit of that. There's a little bit of like you're stretching it to believe that this is going to happen, but
Right.
overall, it's a bit more realistic in like the chain of events. Things are set up a little bit better, and the actual emotional development of the characters, because you just had the fall, right? Like the character was rising up, especially if you're looking at Johnny, and his hubris has gotten too high. He separated from Cobra Kai at the end of the last season, right before the fight and everything. He actually
Right, but even at the beginning of this season,
Yeah.
he's back to square one, being very cocky again.
Yeah, but in this season, he has like that heavy fall, and he kind of goes back to being the guy that wanted him to start this dojo in the first place, realizing why he did it, wanting to fix a problem with the world. And Daniel also goes through a similar arc where, because of the events, he has like a pretty heavy fall that sends him onto like a personal kind of almost spiritual journey, and he has to overcome some things. And the problem is it's taking too long to do this. By the end of the season, they kind of get up to the point where they're ready to rise again and actually confront.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. It's like, it's actually a good path, but it's just taking too long to do it is the problem. And because they keep interjecting some of this little hokey stuff here and there. Like, what they are doing in this season and last season, if they cut a lot of stuff out, they could have fit both of this into one season.
Yeah.
That's my one complaint about it.
Yeah, I have a problem with shows that don't seem to go anywhere.
Yeah, well, let's go somewhere together and let's do it well.
Yeah, because we're on a journey. You're taking us on a journey here.
Transport me. Cowboy, take me away. I want you to take me by the hand and lead me on a grand adventure. And when I'm done, I want to be out of breath and be like, God, that was fucking fantastic. I want to do that again.
Fly this girl
come
as
back next
high
year.
as you can or as high as the sky into the wild blue.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Right. I'm gonna take you places you've never been before, baby. And this show just is not doing it for me. And a lot of it's very not even like old hat, but even going like very old 80s 70s soap opera hat. You know what I mean? Like, let's go way back and put on some really hokey premises, It's like, come. And then they do the same thing where they say, well, we're addressing this ridiculous premise, so you can't really fault us on it, because we're saying, we have a character saying, this is ridiculous what you guys are doing. It's like, just because you say it doesn't mean it's okay. Yeah.
If you were actually making fun of it, that'd be one thing. There's some like tactic to it. But just claiming that it's ridiculous is not the same as like satirically making fun of something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, just having a character that says this is ridiculous,
which they do a lot.
Representing the audience, saying this is ridiculous. Yeah, that's a trope that I've seen in mainstream comic books.
Yeah,
the thing is, you're right. But not only that, like when you do it well, like there was a guy that a lot of people hate, and it's the fat guy that comes and wants to be part of the Cobra Kai, right?
Yeah.
He pulled the airplane bit. He 100% committed to it. There was nothing about him or his what?
People hated that guy?
Yes, people hate that dude. I don't know why, but he sold that show.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
Yeah, he 100% committed. He was like, yeah, this is what I am. I'm a ridiculous farce character, and 100% I'm gonna kick all these kids' asses because I'm bigger and I'm an adult. And it worked. It worked for me. It worked like gangbusters. I was like, I love this guy.
You believe that this person exists in real life?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's probably on Twitter and spurging about something.
Damn it.
Or he's posting about anime and pretending to be a 13-year-old girl.
Hello. I can hear you.
He's muted.
And then he muted. Okay. Oh, he might be on a phone.
Well, it's time.
It is time.
It's
We've been past time.
About that, my wife was calling me to come get enchiladas and stuff.
We'll go get
She sent me a message saying, "There's a plate of enchiladas. When you come in, please act excited."
I'd be excited if there were enchiladas.
You don't know my mother-in-law's cooking.
Yeah,
No, but when it comes to this, I'm like, I really wanted to be, because I did. I'm honest, dude. I really did enjoy season 1. I thought it was really good, and I was excited for season 2. And I watched and I binged season 2 on the Steam of my season 1 experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, I had to power through the later half of that season and kind of finish it, and not feeling the greatest way about it. And this seems to be not headed back. I don't know. I haven't watched the whole thing, but
well, I'll tell you what.
You got to get me in the first couple episodes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've only watched the first episode. I will watch more before Wednesday, and let's discuss it on Wednesday.
Okay.
Maybe.
No?
Because Wednesday was supposed to be the best, the awards day.
Well, and let's
But
discuss
honestly,
it.
most people probably won't be prepared, and we won't talk about that for long. So we might actually still won't talk about it on Wednesday. Yeah.
I'll prepare for that.
Yeah.
Well, you watch it, Marsupial, and we'll do it on Tuesday,
On
which
your
will
channel?
be on my channel, which will be the closing out of my campaign.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
How does that sound?
And tomorrow, Scribattle, right?
And tomorrow's script battle with who's our guest? Oh, Kami Mark.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
He has a book coming out called Definitely Not Daredevil.
I saw that. That looks great. That looks like an awesome campaign.
So he's gonna come on. He's just gonna come on and chit chat though. So we're gonna need another artist.
I want to back him at the, what was it, the $200,000 tier?
Oh Jesus!
I think he has a $200,000 tier.
You've been holding out on us, Marsupial?
Yeah. Been saving up for that.
But yeah,
Okay,
it should be
well,
fun.
I just want to be able to talk about Cobra Kai a little bit before we end the show. We are over.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'll blame Marsupial showing up a couple minutes late for why we're 17 minutes over. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation. Sure, why not?
Stupid old Marsupial.
And going off on my character sheet in Final
Yeah.
Fantasy. So.
It's like it wasn't even that late. It was like 2
Compiling
minutes.
a bunch of memes with Marsupial's stupid face that he put in all the for everybody to see.
That's what I was suggesting on when we were talking about it before. But thanks for showing up, and we'll see everybody next time on the Vomitorium. Bye.
Bye.
The Vomitorium.